Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to day number 5, I believe it is now, of the Americas Elite League. My name is Chunks, and tonight, Imperium was unfortunately unavailable, but I found another Irishman wandering the streets lost. We have Gibson here joining us. Gibson, welcome to the Americas Elite League. Are you excited to get into some PUBG Mobile tonight?
Man, I am so excited. This is my first time ever working the scene, Chunks. My first time working with you, someone I've admired for so long. So to get in here, get some amazing games on the schedule, I couldn't be happier.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting one tonight. Obviously, 20 teams taking part. It's a little bit confusing, but we'll run you through everything shortly. As things currently stand, though, Alpha 7 have kind of been stealing the show in terms of those big game performances, getting a lot of elimination points consistently, making it to the end. But yesterday, towards the end, it felt like... Sorry, not yesterday, the day before, it felt like things started to slip a little bit for the top teams and the gap was starting to reduce. So I've got to ask, coming into tonight, is there anything that you're specifically looking forward to? You know, obviously the leaderboard's extremely close. Are you excited to see that potentially change, or do you just want to see a team tear away with it right now?
Do you want to know something? For my first night, I want to see things get really tense. I wanted to see that leaderboard really condense on down. I know Inco are really close to that top spot, and you know, it'd be nice to see some of those teams from NA start putting the pressure on at the top as well, because we know there's a lot of clanship between these regions. People say, oh, my region's better, your region's better. NA, LATAN, Brazil. I want to see a real scrap at the top.
Well, tonight's the night to prove it, isn't it? Let's take a look over at the groups and we can run you through how we do things here. Just to clarify, we have 5 groups, each made up of 4 teams. In every single game, one of these groups won't be playing, which leaves us with 16 teams. They're all going to battle it out. The next game, the group that was out will come in, and one of the groups that was playing will be removed. The game number 1 tonight is going to be Group A that are out of it, which means that those 4 teams in Group A are not going to be playing. But I think it's a little bit reassuring for any neutral fans tonight, because a lot of the biggest names are actually playing from the start. And speaking of the biggest names, let's take a look over at the standings, and you can see exactly how the points are unfolding. And you see that gap, Gibson, around 3rd, 4th place, but it's smaller than maybe we would have expected.
It really is, but whenever you get a really tight league, that's the way things have played out. I think in most regions right now, the level of competition is so high that it's really hard for a team to properly extend that lead at the top. Like, I'm looking here, Chunks, less than 50 points between 1st and 10th right now at the top half of that table. One really good day from one of those teams down, you know, from 7th, 8th, 9th could really propel them up into that race for 1st as well.
Yeah, and let's not forget as well, there's a couple of those teams that are in the top 10 that aren't going to be playing, obviously in Group A, so that will maybe give a squad like LAZARUS the opportunity to really shine. All it takes is 1 point and they're up a place, but they're hunting down Influence Rage right now because the majority of that prize pool is going to be split amongst the top 3 teams. So that's really where you want to be aiming for tonight.
Oh yeah, just get to the end of the day in a position to fight through it, but if I'm one of those teams in the top 3 as well, like if I'm Alpha 7 going into game 1, you're going to be so consciously aware of what Inco and Influence are going to be doing right behind you, just continuing to extend that lead at the top, because there really is a big difference, Chunks, isn't there, between being at the top of the pile and chasing. Some teams like to be at the top, some teams like to hunt.
Yeah, I will say one thing I find interesting about this leaderboard, though, is actually the way the survival points are stacking out, because you see the elimination points and you see how they work out, and that's kind of to be expected. You've got a couple teams with like 80-ish, most of them are around 70, but when you look over at the time survived and the points that teams have gained off survival, I think it's pretty surprising to see teams like LAZARUS with 85. That's barely 10 points behind 1st place, all the way down in 5th. Is that just because they're not going elim heavy enough? Do you maybe want to see them step it up tonight?
Well, I think if you are in that situation, especially look at Loop right behind them. Loop's with 81 points. I think LAZARUS need to try get more eliminations where they can. I know that they're kind of in a situation where sometimes the zone keeps popping your favor, and it's really difficult, Chunks, whenever the zone keeps popping in your favor to get those kill points, because some teams like to get on the edge and fight their way in.
Yeah, I mean, talking about zones going in your favor, let's take a look at this match from last play day, so the day before yesterday. It was Rise who were able to take it, and we had a lot of these late game scenarios where it came down to maybe 1 or 2 players left up, a lot of clutch situations that we saw, and a lot of tricky zones. So I think it's about making the best out of a bad opportunity, isn't it? Obviously, this game from Loops was absolutely huge. Cardozen right there, able to pick up the 2K to get them the chicken dinner up against a really decent squad was so impressive to see. And then this was probably one of my favorite end games I've casted in a long time, because you seldom get to see a zone like this, do you, where it's on a cliffside with so much water in it. It was a hell of a way to end.
It really was, and it's like shooting fish in a barrel, dare I say it, for some of the teams as those players were climbing down from that cliff, because once you get in that Superman fall animation, Chunks, it's really easy for those teams that are on the ground to pick up those elims.
Yeah, it really is. And obviously Nova there busting out the heal strat, something that I think is surprisingly viable in PUBG Mobile. A lot of teams opting to go for it, but me and Imperium definitely spoke last week about the heal strat really being a plan B. It should never be your initial plan to start things off. It should always be, let's try and get a good game with a decent number of eliminations, make it to the late game, and then just keep a couple meds in reserve for if maybe 2 or 3 players fall, just in case you have to bust out that strategy. And you know what? It worked for Nova. They made it to 2nd place in that game, which without that performance, they would have dropped down the leaderboards probably a couple places.
Yeah, I think it's situational, isn't it? Teams do go in with a plan A, but when you find yourself stuck outside in the blue, that heal strat really does come to the fore. But momentum's a big thing, Chunks. You know, that strat alone, picking up that 2nd place just by doing that, even though they didn't get a bag full of kills, the fact that getting those placement points and feeling good about it, that confidence will continue to grow and even come into play today.
Yeah, there's one team I kind of want to talk about, or there's a couple teams I maybe want to talk about before we start off tonight. Obviously, we've got a few minutes till game number 1. The first of which is going to be Black Dragons. In the overall standings, they're doing pretty weak right now, but they've been doing they've had a couple of really good performances. Taking a look over at the MVP standings, though, I think you can really see how it reflects the leaderboard, except for, as I mentioned, Black Dragons. Nicholas is putting in work, currently 4th place rated on the MVP, compared to where they currently stand right now, which I think is outside of the top 10.
It's actually really interesting to see that too, and the thing that stands out to me straight off the bat, though, is the performance of those players from Influence Range. Look at that, 2 out of the top 3 are from Influence Range alone. That goes to show how good of a squad they are from top to bottom, and there really isn't much between it when you look from 4th to 10th in those stats as well, is there?
No, I think something I found interesting about this one is Alpha 7 obviously being the top team. Only 1 player up there is the MVP right now, so I'm interested to see how that will change throughout the night, because you've got teams like Loops, Lazarus, Honored Souls, Team QUESO, teams that, sure, they're in the top half of the leaderboard, but are they really there concrete? Are they there for the long haul? I don't think you can really say yes to that one. So I'm intrigued to see how that's going to change the MVP, whether, you know, it will reflect in the team's stats when it comes to the points, or whether they'll maybe just unfortunately slip down that MVP, because there's only so much you can do as a solo if the whole team aren't performing.
Yeah, exactly. But Chunks, at the same time, some teams are built that way. You know, just because one player's in the top 10 and the rest aren't, doesn't mean that one player is carrying by any stretch of the imagination at all. You have to take into consideration the communication, like how much info are they giving that player? How much of a support role are the other players taking? Because if you give a really skilled player like Carrillo all of that information, he's going to feed.
He's going to make the most out of it. It's going to be interesting to see how those individuals kind of shine. One team I want to touch on, though, that has maybe surprised a lot of people for the wrong reasons, has to be Knights. It feels like things are kind of slipped for them. They're obviously a very well-known team. Everyone is aware of just how strong they can play. But it feels like so far in the Americas Elite League, they've been really struggling. Sure, they're not in a terrible position. They're not at the very bottom of the leaderboards, but unfortunately, they weren't really far off. They've slipped a little bit, and I think that is down to them going for a bit of early game aggression, which I really like to see. But is there any way you can really recover after losing 1 or 2 players so early on?
In the late game, no. You know, it leaves you in one of those holes where you're playing the snake style, you're kind of riding the shacks around the edge of the zone, doing your best to just not get spotted out, because at this level, any team with a 4-man up against a 2 or a 3-man are going to win 9 times out of 10. It's the reason why they are the pros. But I think with the Knights, they have been impacted too a lot, Chunks, by the fact the RNG nature of the game and the way the zones have been popping against them. They've found themselves almost being forced to take on some of those early game fights just to get some points on the board.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I hope to see them not let off, honestly, because we've seen 1 or 2 games where Knights have actually been pretty successful when it comes to the early game fights. It's just really, you know, maybe phase 2, phase 3 when they've maybe lost a player early, where the cracks really start to show, where everyone's shooting at each other from long range. I think that is maybe where Knights are starting to struggle. And you know what? They're not the only team. There's a lot of teams taking a look at the leaderboards that are maybe disappointing, but I do wonder if maybe that's just a case of us saying it's disappointing because we see teams like Alpha 7, Influence Rage up there at the top, just absolutely slaying, basically getting points left, right, and center.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people went into this though looking at Alpha 7. I think, you know, they're the gold standard. They're the team that you have to catch, and maybe some people, they're in love with the name of some of these older rosters, Chunks, like the Pittsburgh Knights. If you know esports and you know the NA scene, you know the Pittsburgh Knights. But as we're getting ready to jump on into Miramar, I am really excited for this one, Chunks. And it is, like we said, a really good opportunity for one of these teams to set the day off the right way.
Yeah, it's interesting. I haven't actually had the chance to cast any Miramar yet in PUBG Mobile, so I'm really excited to see how that unfolds. Obviously, it is Miramar Sanhok tonight, so I think we're going to see a big difference between our Miramar match, which we have now, and our Sanhok matches later on. Just because obviously Miramar is such a big map, it feels like it plays a little bit slower than Air Angles, so I think it'll be an interesting one to watch, see how it ends up unfolding, see if maybe teams do want to get aggressive early and just start going hard early on.
Yeah, well, I think that really when you look at Miramar, it is played differently. It does feel slower because it's not really a compound-centric map the way other maps are. Teams tend to play the terrain a little bit more. There's a lot more places to hide in the early game, Chunks, but you know what it lacks in the early game, it makes up for in those final few phases where you've got more teams alive, you've got more third parties, fourth parties going on than maybe you would have on Erangel. Like, look, some people prefer Miramar, some people prefer Erangel. I'm not going to lie, as somebody who grew up loving a bit of bolty action and you know, long range engagements, I do like Miramar.
I get that. The thing with me is I'm not all about those long-range engagements. I like getting up close and personal and causing teams problems. So I think that's why I'm more of an air angle guy, you know?
Yeah. I like it, though. I'm all for it. But as these teams drop, Chunks, there are some power positions. This is like Power Grid, San Martin, Picado. And the reason being is they're very good staging points for the rest of the game. With a flight path like this, going from about 1 o'clock down through to about 8, really everywhere's fair game.
Yeah, anything that isn't kind of northwest of Pozo, you're pretty safe to get to. Maybe if you want to get down to Puerto, you're going to struggle a little bit. But I think for the majority of teams, they should be able to get where they need to. Now, obviously, having a few days since we actually got to see any Miramar action, if we haven't even seen any yet, it probably means that we are going to see some fast-paced fights early, some hot drops coming out. And we're seeing that already as Escobar goes and takes down Salt from Polar Ace. Now Polar Ace down to a 2-man. It's not the first time where they've been in this situation. And I hate to say it, but in the past they have struggled. And now with 3 teams all around this area, it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, a little bit of a hot drop straight off the bat, and that really whets the appetite nicely as we move on into this one. We see off in the distance as well. A lot of players taking a lot of damage as Stoico's going to toss that nade. He's chasing it up to maybe catch. No, he's got the UMP ready to fire to do some damage, and that is another man down. And really, it is all action already in the early stages of this one.
Yeah, Loop's doing a really good job to get that early elimination, but Delta Star's obviously getting one of their own. If Escanard does end up getting revived, then it will put them in a bit of a better situation, but I'll be honest, Delta Stars have struggled at times. They're a team that have kind of consistently got to the top end of things, but in terms of seeing them in the elimination feed, you don't really get to see too much action from them. It's a shame to say, because they are such a promising roster.
Look, it'll take time. You know, as the games go on, sometimes it's just not your day. But I think getting the first kill of the day, getting a point on the board nice and early, it's going to give them a little bit of confidence. But it's all kind of kicking off right now here in and around Minas Generalis as well. As we do have Loops having a little look around. They've got one kill on the board for themselves already. And I'm looking, they seem like they really want to get a go at Nova Esports.
It seems like it, doesn't it? Obviously, we have a couple contentions going on, so we'll probably be switching between the two of them. Right now, Inco are going to be holding up the top of Chumacera. I do worry that, Sazzy from Delta Stars, kind of on his own right there, with Trey very close by. So, sure, he's got an AK, but if he just steps out in the wrong direction, maybe doesn't know about Trey's position, it could cause some serious problems, especially if Inco decide to start looking down if they hear any shots.
Yeah, I think he really needs Frag to get some pressure on from that other side of the road, because you know that Inco up there, as soon as they hear those first couple of gunshots going off, they're going to be looking down to pick up an elimination or two of their own. And with that high ground and Chumacera being so powerful as well, if you have to pick a team that's going to come out of this one looking the best, they are definitely in the best position right now to do that.
Over on the other fight, though, I do wonder, Loops, Nova, who's in the better position? I want to think Loops, because they've got the high ground, they have some good angles, but the Winchester, is that the play you want to be going with in an early game engagement?
Well, we saw the ads earlier for, the Wild Wild West themed event going on right now. Well, what better way to kick off the night than to see some winning action? Look, it's like you said, is it good in the early game? Well, if you can click heads, Chunks, if you can get that lined up and land that shot, well, yes, it definitely can, but if you miss your first shot or you get pushed, yeah, the Winnie's not the one for me.
I will say I have been pleasantly surprised by how good some of these players are in this lobby with a bolt. We saw someone rocking an M24 the other day and was able to find headshot after headshot, so I'm staying optimistic, but you got to be cautious when it's a Winnie, don't you? It's never set in stone that someone's going to go off with it. It's more likely than not it'll fail.
Yeah, it is, but the thing is, these are pros. These guys are best at what they do, and sometimes maybe we can be a little bit guilty of putting our ability up against them, saying, well, I'm not great with the money, but these are amazing players. Right now, though, Trey, big fight between Polar Racing and member of the Delta Stars is going to drop. Sazzle going to get cleaned up nicely. That's an elimination point for Polar Ace now too. They get one kill, but Chunks, they are now down one extra player, just 2 men standing, as we've got another fight right now as well, with XSET being pushed right now.
Team QUESO are going to be the ones pushing into this one. And XSET, this is not a situation they want to be in. They've taken so many early game engagements already. They're just really struggling to keep their full 4 players up until the late game. Nova, though, are actually going to be kicking off their fight over on the eastern side towards Minas Generalis. It's QZ that's able to open things up onto the Loops player. But don't forget, Nova, having lost a player early on already, will be at a bit of a disadvantage. There's so much action, Gibson. It's hard to keep track, but XSET is still holding steadfast, and it looks like QUESO want to move up here.
Yeah, they're trying to push now. They know exactly where XSET are. They just need to push and get aggressive, but XSET holding their angles, making sure they don't get caught out. XSET, of course, another one of the big names in NA Esports across multiple different genres of games. But Killswitch, he's just peeking over his shoulder. They're biding their time, waiting to get that open knock in this engagement. This is the calm before the storm, Chunks. This is the moment when all the players, they're having their little chat and they're like, right, what are we going to do? Are we going to stun push? Are we going to drop some utility? Or do we just wait for the first team to make a mistake? And both teams really just hunkered down now, Chunks, aren't they? They're both waiting on the other one to make the first move.
Can you blame them, honestly? I mean, XSET are really struggling in terms of meds here. I'm not sure how Team QUESO's ability is looking, but it's really going to be a tough fight for them. It looks like, though, Delta Stars are going to be opening up pretty big right now. Fraggers was able to take down one. Kiyoshi is going to be pushing to try and finish the job. Now, as he takes the UMP shots, it's going to give the info away, and it's the AK at close range to finish things off. But on the other side of things, XSET also starting to engage on this fight. You see J7 taken down right now. Down low, I should say. Runs out of ammo, trying to push upstairs. There's still a QUESO player up top. Got the double barrel in hand. All he's going to take is a couple bullets. He's going to be out of the fight. Is it going to be enough? Seemingly not able to find them just yet. Sweeping through, nearly taking down his own teammates.
Oh my god, it's just absolute bedlam up on top of these apartment buildings now. Pushing into the bathroom, here comes the swing. And XSET, they're just going to full send, commit to getting the kill. But he jumped out the window, Chunks. He already moved, and XSET just waited a little bit too long. But they do have Team QUESO on their knees right now. J-Way getting aggressive. He's got that AK, like you said. Switching back over to the other fighting Chumachera, Vitali from Inco. We spoke about how good of a position they had on South Chuma. Well, they're making it count right now, landing some nice long-range shots.
I mean, Inco right now, they have a pretty tough choice to make. Do they move, or do they try and hold out Fraggers and go for that extra elimination point? It's going to be an interesting one. J-Way, though, has been able to finish off Team QUESO. You see them just shooting the body just to confirm that they're definitely not around anymore. So nicely done. There's 4 elimination points for XSET, which have been as much as I hate to say it, it's been hard to come by for XSET, and I hope this is the start of something different.
Yeah, well, that's it. As a caster, Chunks, we're all a fan of the underdog, aren't we? We all like the teams down at the bottom to start picking up some points and climbing that table. And I think most viewers at home are the exact same. Unless you're in here supporting one of your teams, people like to see the underdogs putting some points on the board. So XSET getting a nice early quad on the board will do them the world of good, while elsewhere that fight continuing to kick off, and Nova taking some casualties as well. So we've got action everywhere, and this is not what I was expecting in the early phase stages of game number 1 tonight.
I think due to the fact it's so early on in terms of our Miramar games, I think that maybe has something to do with the early game action. Maybe the teams aren't super used to Miramar. We've been playing a lot of Erangel and Sanhok recently, so that's the only explanation. But we need to be careful. We need to see, is this going to change when a new group comes in now? Are the drop spots going to change? Are teams maybe going to think, hey, we were contested in this loot spot, go somewhere else because they don't want to fight it again? And then it turns out that the team that they were previously fighting in that loot spot aren't even in the lobby, so it's just an open loot spot, and they end up hot dropping someone else. So I think that's the danger of the lobbies tonight.
Oh man, the format of the 5 groups does make it very interesting, to be honest, when you do kind of think of the power struggles. Because a lot of these teams like Poch Picado too, I know that we're not going to see Erangel tonight, but when they're not in the lobby, it becomes kind of free reign for all the rest of the teams to try and pick it up. But this engagement in Minas, this has been going on for quite a while now, and really, Chunks, there's no rush for these 2 teams either, because they are inside the zone right now. They've got plenty of time to chill with the clock ticking on by, and really, they're just feasting us with some action.
They're just vibing. Honestly,
yeah.
you can't blame them for it. It looks like Delta Star's now finally going to be getting pushed. Inco have a really good read on this building. It looks like the nade actually might come through. If it lands through that window, Fraggers is going to be in trouble. It looks like it's going to come close, but unfortunately the wrong side of the walls. So Fraggers staying alive just about. Escanar and Elite are just nowhere to be found right now. They're trying to get up as a group, but as Inco, they just send a bike right up top. What a way to scout.
Look, I appreciate it. I like the attempt, but for Fraggers now, he needs to just at least get a point or 2 or sneak out the back door. But if you're looking at this for Inco, they're sitting in 2nd place going into this, as far as I remember. They want to get this cleaned up as quickly as possible so they can get on the move. But that's a great defensive molly by Fraggers, delaying the push just a little bit longer. Just kind of worried. He's wasting a lot of time that he could be using to maybe get on the retreat on taking up defensive positions for the fight, and in a 1v4 situation, it's not looking good for him.
I think Fraggers right here is just going to try and salvage any point he can get. That's a really nice nade, but Inco did a good job to try and bait it out first. One of the players has been taken down low, so he's going to be leading the charge, but they're all just taking turn. Jiggle peeking as now the AK spray comes out. He fires off 10 bullets, does a little bit of damage with it, goes for the speed reload. It's able to, but unfortunately Fraggers will be falling as Golden is there to finish off the job. So not ideal there for Delta Stars. I don't know why they were so split in the first place, honestly.
Look, they're 2 men down. We spoke about this being an issue earlier for the Knights with them losing players early. Well, Delta Stars are going to have to fight the rest of this with just 2 players alive and kicking. And speaking of the Knights, Chunks, it looks like only 3 of them managed to load in on this one too. So it's not the ideal start. But we're on board now with Zero as he's having a look down into those towers inside Minas Gerais. He's got that K9 ready to fire some shots. He wants to pick up a knock or 2 to give them the advantage in this gunfight. But once again, I'm really impressed by the patience here, Chunks, by these teams. You know, they're not trying to force the issue because they know that they don't have to.
No, and it's really good from them, just playing patiently, knowing, hey, we're inside zone, we still have a good thing going on. Obviously, Ints have to kind of be the favourites here. They're just waiting to go for a bit of a third party, if they even choose to. Honestly, the rest of the squad don't seem too interested. It looks like it is down to just this solo player from Ints providing Overwatch. And sure, if he sees a bit of movement, he's going to take the shot. Can you blame him?
Oh, look at this. Look at this.
Okay.
Ingenuity going on right now by Loops. I like it. I like it. But unfortunately, couldn't get up through the hatch. But this is really a really creative way to maybe catch Kindness out here. And it may catch him cold.
If this works out for Loops, this would be absolutely huge, being able to sneak up round the back, no one having a clue. But it seems like Kindness maybe has an idea that something's going on. He's probably thinking, hey, what's with all this jumping? Why is there so much noise? What are they planning here? Maybe thinking it's even more players. So it is going to be a tricky one. Equally tricky, though, for Alpha 7, even though they have opened up, managed to get themselves, I believe, 2 knocks, flushing those out to get those elimination points. A pretty good start for them, and exactly what you'd expect from Alpha 7.
Yeah, well, I was looking at their position in Chunks while all that was going on. They've pretty much got the whole northeast section of the zone on lockdown, and they're just looking for somewhere to set themselves up to try get another win on the board. And with the zone popping the way it is, and most of that northeastern section of the map having no points of entry, they can afford to do that. Look, if you've spawned in with that flight path, that northeast section is completely free territory.
Ints looking like they are finally starting to get involved right now. Zero not quite able to make anything out of it. Mufasa with some extremely long-range shots to try and take care of a vehicle. There is a drop near him, but doesn't look like Rise want to go for it. And honestly, can you blame them not able to pick up a single point yet this game?
Yeah, no points on the board, but definitely getting style points rocking around in that Lambo off-road, Chunks. And I'm not sure if it was meant to do it, but Rise making it look easy with that Lambo on the hills.
I like the style. I like the style point. As now we just wait, I guess. We see what happens with the zone. It doesn't look like we're really expecting to see any fights super early on here. So let me ask you, from what we've seen so far, which teams are you keeping your eye on?
Well, as a caster, you're going to keep your eye on the team in front, Alpha 7. They've got a point on the board. I want to see what Inco are going to be able to do, though, as they make their way into the zone after winning that fight inside Chumachera. And really, Loops. I'm impressed by Loops here so far, as they're going to pick up a knock, and that is an important knock right there, Chunks, as it allows them to get the res. And now Ints on the back foot inside Minas. How big of a play was that by Demendor?
That was absolutely huge. Being able to go up as a team, play for trades to a point where you're not both just running in blind. One of you still has some info, yet isn't able to get immediately flushed out. That's really good there for Loops. I do worry, though, about Ints. They were trying to play a bit of a sneaky game. They took some shots that arguably they maybe shouldn't have done. They conceded a knock in return, and now any chance of an ambush they were going for is long gone. But credit to Siroxy right now, going for the bolt shots at range. Can he find the head? Yes, he does. Tokyo goes down. Beautiful from Ints. Now will they try to capitalize? It seems like the vehicles are moving. It might just be time.
Yeah, they're either going to use that to be an aggressive or push on, jumping on and do another fight as J-Way getting into it right now. A little bit of a spray on the Rise, and Rise are going to get that knock as they pick up a point. And another one on the board for them as they manage to successfully wrangle this compound away. XSET as well, finding themselves in with the Delta Stars now after Delta Stars lost a couple of players earlier. Loops and XSET, 4 points each on the board from elimination so far, and this is a big moment from J7. Looking around, a lot of noise being made inside that shack. He's going to maneuver himself back around, gets blocked off though by the car. Ooh. Gets the knock, and that is fantastic play right now. And Delta Stars, with just one player standing now, they're at extreme risk of going down early in this match.
Another team that we saw fighting early on, though, it has to be XSET, and they've conceded a player now. J7 is looking over towards Delta Stars, but the rest of his team are just really struggling right now, completely split. They need to take down this final player from Delta Stars, but it doesn't look like they've been able to just yet. The smoke comes out to try and break line of sight. J7 looking like he maybe wants to make a move, but going to pop that heal first, making sure he is fully prepared, just watching the cross. Did you see a bit of that movement? Didn't look like it, but as he swings out wide, Knights are able to finish off Rise right there. Really impressive over in the background. 2 eliminations for Knights, and considering they joined without a player and lost another, that's not a bad way to start off the game.
Definitely not. They must have heard us talking about them chunks earlier on, saying that we expect bigger and better things from them. But the issue they have now is the fact we spoke about them being in a 2-man position time and time again as we move into the late game. And once again, they're in that situation now. You've got ATON Esports. You got Lucky tossing some utility up on the hill to buy himself sometimes. That Molly's going to be used, but look at Federal wrapping around the side. Spray comes out from the UMP, gets the knock onto one, and now he's going to send all of that ammo down, and that's another knock on the board, and that's just really good play by Influence.
ATON out of it, unfortunately, in 11th place. Not the way they wanted things to go. Sorry, 12th place. It was Inco, actually one of our top teams right now, went out in 11th, severely lacking for points right there, but it does open things up for the teams both below and also Alpha 7 above. If Alpha 7 are able to get some more points on the board, it will start to grow that gap even further. Only 2 eliminations so far. It definitely seems like they are playing a bit of a slower early game, waiting to get set up in position, but that's going to be hard with the circle like this.
Oh, it's definitely going to be a tough one with that shift, especially with about 20 to 30% of it being in the open water. But wait, for us, for the viewers, for us casters, this is the evil little twiddle of the fingers chunks, because it's going to force all of those players into a smaller space, and that leads more action, more points being gained, and more opportunities for those teams that are still alive and kicking to get the win on this one. But you gotta say, Alpha 7, we spoke about them. 2 kills on the board already. They've got all 4 men standing. Every single kill or elimination point that they get from now on, every single placement point is just going to extend that gap over Inco. And if you're Inco right now, you're rooting for 9 other teams in this one.
Yeah, you are keeping your fingers crossed, hoping that anyone below you is able to get some points, but not quite enough to actually be able to do anything in terms of the leaderboards changing. INTZ were there. They were able to finish up the job over with that solo player in the shack. You can see Nicholas. This is a player who it feels like we can't talk about enough. He's been playing just out of his mind so far this stage. Currently, I think 5th place in the MVP standings. Unfortunately, though, the team's performance isn't quite reflecting it. So hopefully tonight, Black Dragons can maybe get themselves a few more points.
Definitely. Whenever you've got one player inside that top 10 and your team necessarily isn't performing, you're just kind of saying, can we up the performance a little bit? Can we all start chipping in with more of those elimination points, more of those placement points to climb that table? But that zone shift, chunks, it really is a cruel one right now. And you look at some of the teams in there already, and you gotta say, Alpha 7 again, their macro play is incredible. Speaking of macro play, though, the micro play from Salite, not quite good enough there to get the knock for Delta Stars. And now he's being pushed hard as they look to get some more points on the board.
Elite opens up with the spray. Sorry, that was Escanar that opens up with the spray down towards the INTZ player. Molotov also following. It was just a little bit wide. Maybe the second will have some more success. Seemingly not. Delta Stars still with only 2 players left up, but they are capitalizing on the shots coming from all around. Escanar nearly goes down, but able to pop the first aid in time. Elite does see a little bit of movement from the player up close. Tries to open with the AK, but unfortunately it's just not going to be enough yet.
Yeah, Delta Stars getting in so many fights early game, but not really going down as a squad. Still 2 men up for a long time, but they're fighting this one out with INTZ. INTZ really need to get this job done, because the more time they spend fighting this one out, the more opportunity for third parties, the harder it will be to get into that zone, which is, by the way, quite a ways away from where they are right now. But look at Philboy wrapping up on top of the rocks as well. He's going to get a beautiful angle down to that blue, isn't he?
Oh, this is so good as well, because this area is just in, so Influence Rage can just chill up here. Lil Boy obviously trying to scout out for a little bit more info, so's Kaizagi. So they're just watching out as best as possible. The UMP meta's still in play, but at this kind of range, it's actually going to be Influence Rage opting for M4s, going for those long-range sprays instead. INTZ, though, are going to have a really tough time. Now getting pushed by a couple teams. It's going to be Knights and I believe Delta Stars both on this position, trying to hold them out. Influence Rage just repositioning the vehicles up above. Looking like they do want to start getting involved. Alzagi, though, with the M4 of his own. Can he land a couple shots? Unfortunately, this time, seemingly not. Alpha 7 should be able to get in the vehicle, use it down that ridge, and put themselves in arguably the best position.
Yeah, it's just such... Like, look at the lines of sight right now that are being held. The zone still just about keeping them in play as that zone shift once again.
This is huge.
I like it. I like it right now. Zero getting into it as well, though a lot of gunshots going on. But he's going to stop, drop, and smoke as he tries to be sneaky to get around the back door. Zero still playing inside. We've seen him land a couple of beautiful bolty shots earlier. And I think that the game has been given away. INTZ are very aware now that there is a player on that roof. And this nade could be huge.
Oh, it looks like it's going to be close. Is it perfectly cooked? Oh, Black Dragons do end up falling, but the nade doesn't quite connect onto Influence Rage. Mateus still looking out as Soroxy also in position, watching this cliffside. Kalzagi just needs to maybe get a nade through or something, but that doesn't matter because the shot certainly will land. Down he goes, takes down one, immediately goes for a second as the rest of Influence Rage with the long range shots towards Loop instead. Lil Boy putting in work as INTZ have been brought back up. Now Kalzagi has to start making a move, but INTZ are just pinned in this corner. There's not really anything they can do right now.
No, they're not. And with multiple teams hounding them right now, it's going to be a very difficult situation to get out of. I think that's ESTORM as well, just gatekeeping, holding the door closed. And as I look, I think LAZARUS too, they're alive and kicking. They've been, they've lighted up the kill feed without us catching anything, as Neto is going to get a knock onto one of the Delta Stars. And Delta Stars, they're inside the top 7, but they've been fighting from the first second to the very last. And I think, yeah, that will be them finally falling out. But Zero from the top is going to get knocked now to Influence Rage, making their move. They've taken a lot of knocks themselves, but with the blue zone pushing their back, something has got to give.
Oh, they are in serious trouble. INTZ actually go round for the flush, but also end up spotting out that final player. That's going to be the end of Influence Rage now. INTZ barely making it in with 2 players left up. Another 2 knocked, but a decent number of elimination points. We're into the top 5 right now. Luis preps himself a bit of a Molotov. Does it land? Not looking like it. Loops are still going to be in it. Now there's a serious cross that needs to be made. They'll look over on that minimap at just how far all of these teams need to go. It's LAZARUS and Alpha 7 that are really controlling the pace of the game right now. Loop still themselves barely inside. They maybe pushed through a little bit too early. Now they're going to be so exposed to all of the teams behind them.
Oh, they definitely are, but with 7 eliminations on the board already too, they're in a great situation. But look, a little bit of smoke, a little bit of hard cover allows Menor to just wrap in behind this farm equipment. Hits the deck, but LAZARUS aware of the presence. And look, Cardozen's going to make the move on in too as he tries to get that res. But look at Menor. He is stuck between a rock and a hard place right now. with that blue zone exactly where it is, and that shift again. That's another heavy shift that we have, Chunks, and that's really not going to do a lot of these teams favors.
Oh, Luis, it was so close. He nearly managed to get another first aid off, but it just wasn't enough. But yeah, as you mentioned, it's going to be so hard for these players to actually make it in. Alpha 7, though, maybe not going to have that. They have a beautiful little ridge to work with. They have eyes onto LAZARUS, who can't really push them unless they just want to hold down forward straight through the smoke. So Alpha 7 arguably charged to take this, but if it comes down to LAZARUS and Loops working together to start making some noise, it might just shut them down. But it looks like LAZARUS is going to be the first team to lose a player. More shots following through. Swagoin still keeping an eye out. Tommy gun in hand, not something we've seen used too often, as the long-range Scar tries to connect onto his teammate on the hillside. Ints do fall out in 4th position, leaving 3 teams left up, but there's 10 players to go along with that. The nade starts to come over. Mafo goes down. This might just be the crack in the armor starting to show for Alpha 7, but as the UMP push comes through, they are able to trade it out, and that should give Alpha 7 a little bit of respite to heal before LAZARUS send yet another player over in a buggy.
Yeah, Alpha 7 just winning gunfights on multiple fronts right now, but Fears wraps up the back door, gets 3 of them down. It's a 1v1. But managing to win that one out now. Joey wrapping around from the other side as those reses are going to be pulled off. But if you're a member of Loops, if you're a member of LAZARUS, now is the time to capitalize while you have Alpha 7 on their heels. Joey getting aggressive. Stoico, he wants to res Cardozo, but I don't think he's going to be able to with the blue zone being where it is. Oh my god, Joey with the big flag gets around the back door now, opens up with a bit of spray. Chunks, he gets one. Chunks, is he going to get the second? No, he doesn't.
The trade's there, but barely in time. Everyone's going to be low HP, and in the end, it's Alpha 7 that end up winning the game. I think that might even have been the play zone that ended up taking down Loops there, if not maybe 1 or 2 final taps. Beautifully done from Alpha 7, solidifying their place at the top of the pack. They had an amazing position. To be able to grab that so early on and play it confident was an amazing read, and they just held out every other squad, even though it might just have been if LAZARUS had sent 2 players down at once instead of 1, we could have seen a completely different end game.
Oh, definitely. Joey made a valiant effort at the end, getting a couple and more knocks in for himself, but you spoke about it, that Alpha 7 position, because you had the blue zone behind you, and you had that little ridge, and you were on the kind of slower phase of the zone. It really meant that you knew there was only one place that teams were going to be able to push you from, and when you have the high ground, and whenever you have the positioning that they had, it's going to be an easy GG, and Alpha 7 showing why they're the cream of the crop right now.
Really nicely done from Alpha 7. Let's take a look over at the standings for that match, because there was a lot of action. It was pretty hard to keep up with. In the end, Alpha 7 taking the lion's share of the points, but with a serious number of eliminations and also getting up there in the placement, Loops were also able to get themselves 21 points out of that match.
Yeah, 21 points for them. It was 9 eliminations. You look down through the leaderboard. Influence Rage as well. They had a very good game from a fragging perspective, but only 4 placement points gives them 11 points. But if you're Team KESO, if you're ATON Esports or Polar Ace, you really need to reset that mental going into game number 2, Chunks, because starting off the day with a 1-point performance or a 0-point performance is not the one.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for a lot of those teams. I guess the early game scraps were a big part of it. I'll tell you a team that did a really good job of avoiding a lot of scraps, and it's something we spoke about earlier that we maybe hope to change. It's got to be LAZARUS. They got themselves 3 eliminations and 10 placement points that game. So at least they're racking up points. That's one positive, but I wonder how sustainable is going for really placements only in a format like this.
Yeah, look at Alpha 7, 24 points, picking up 11 more points than them, and most of those coming from those eliminations. Look, we said it during the game, LAZARUS, they didn't necessarily light up the kill feed, but a cheeky little 3rd place replacement points, it'll do them a lot of good going into the rest of the day. Just maybe try find a couple more engagements.
Let's maybe go a little bit deeper into the stats from that match and see how things unfolded. Obviously, Alpha 7, 9 eliminations that match, but it seemed like they were pretty efficient with everything they used. Sure, they traveled quite a long way, but that's just the nature of Miramar in terms of the shots fired. There weren't actually that many. It feels like they were very efficient with the fights they were taking and ended them relatively quickly.
Yeah, and even the fact that they did 1,300 damage and got 9 kills, it shows how effective they were at turning those shots into kills, because a lot of the time, Chunks, you'll see teams doing maybe 2,000 damage and picking up 6 or 7 kills because they're not very efficient at confirming those out. But Alpha 7, fantastic job by them on that one. Utility usage, though, you talk about a lot of the top teams out there being very good with utility. 11 smokes used as we have a look at our match MVP, Cardozan.
Really impressive there, considering that Loops weren't actually able to take the game in the end. He was able to survive until the end. 6 eliminations on his own. Didn't actually have to heal that much, so it yet again shows good usage of being able to keep an eye out, make a bit of noise, but not take too much damage in return. Really avoiding being knocked is the big things there. But did get quite a lot of shots off, was clearly farming that damage. I'd love to maybe see his damage stats, which we will actually see in a second, because we have a more detailed breakdown of the stats coming up. But at least from that game, isn't not really anything you can fault from him. And wow, talk about Loop stealing the show on our detailed stats.
Yeah, look at that. That is exactly what you'll see. 3 assists, 6 kills, and he tops the leaderboard and everything that matters. Loop's MVP in my books all day long. But you look at the other players in there. You got INTZ and XSET putting some impressive stats in there as well. And look at the damage done. We've actually got 319 for Kyle.
I can't help but enjoy that stat on the right there. LAZARUS clearly did not have an easy time that game. So, you know what? I mentioned, like, oh, maybe they should get a bit more aggressive. But now I think of it, maybe there's a reason I didn't see them all game. Maybe they were just busy rotating their way in. So, you know what? Credit to LAZARUS to be able to make it to the late game there and pick up so many points, because it's not one of those games that they really could have fought their way through. They were very efficient with how they planned out their rotates to be able to make it in. So, really impressive indeed to see them actually stack up so many points. Speaking of points, let's look at the overall standings, see how things are currently looking after that match. Obviously, Group A was out, so if there is a team on the overall leaderboards that you see that is maybe a little bit behind what you expected, that might just be the reason why. So go and check what group they are, but coming up in a sec will be the overall leaderboards. Gibson, obviously the top of the pack is just growing further and further. Alpha 7 with yet another win.
Yeah, Inco really going out early did a lot of favors to Alpha 7. Then they compounded on the misery by picking up the win as well. But if you're Inco now, they were looking ahead of them going into this with just 2 points separating them from Alpha. Now they find Influence just 2 points behind them. And when you look at how many kills Influence have picked up, Influence have a lot of momentum back in them right now.
Huge amount of eliminations there from Influence Rage, but I can't help but notice teams like Loops have also been able to get above that 90 elimination mark. The only other team that's been able to do that is Alpha 7 and obviously Influence Rage. So I think it's important to see that it's not all about going out and eliminating people. It is equally about the survival, but then you have a squad like LAZARUS that, sure, they're in first place, they're in fourth place, that's good, but is it what you'd expect from LAZARUS? Would you maybe expect them to be maybe a little closer to 80 eliminations, something like that, go a little bit harder there, and maybe just make it a bit more of a fight? But I say that if LAZARUS are able to consistently place, they will definitely work their way up. So I'm not judging them yet.
Yeah, maybe they might get a nicer zone this time so they're not rotating the whole way through. But something that just kind of standing out to me too, was look at Team QUESO. 77 kill points. That's more than I think 4 teams above them in the leaderboard right now. They've just not been able to pick up those placement points at all, have they?
No, it's been a rough one. QUESO are definitely a bit of a scrappy team from what I can tell. They've taken, I believe on Sanhok, they took like 2 or 3 hot drops the other day, so it doesn't surprise me to see them being able to get a couple of elimination points, but then struggle when it comes to placement. So I really do hope that will be something that can change soon. But game number 2 is going to be underway in just a couple minutes. Before that, we are going to take a very short break. So we will be back in just a couple of minutes with match number 2 of the evening over on Sanhok. Welcome back, everybody, to the America's Elite League. Game number 1 is in the books, and next we go over to Sanhok for some jungle action. I gotta say, though, Gibson, Alpha 7, really impressive performance, kicking things off the way as they, I want to say, mean to go on, but they've been doing this consistently so far over the past 4 play days.
Yeah, and that's what the best team really does tend to do. They really play so well from both a macro and a micro perspective. And that's why Alpha 7 are at the top. They've kind of set the bar, Chunks, for this lobby. And I don't want to say that anyone is out of it just yet, but you really need to up your game. But Chunks, we are going right now to one of my favorite maps in PUBG Mobile. What are you expecting to change now as we move over to Sanhok?
Action. I mean, you know what? That Miramar match was action-packed enough, but with just the way that we have the groups rotating in and out, I believe it is Group B that aren't in this match. I might be wrong there. So with the way that the groups rotate in and out, it means that we pretty much always get at least one hot drop, no matter what map we're on. But we're on Sanhok because everyone wants these 1 or 2 high-priority areas. It feels like we get a whole lot more. So Painan, Boot Camp, definitely places we've seen a lot of people dropping. The camps, so Camp Alpha, Bravo, Charlie have been a place where we've seen a lot of heat, but it seems like those kind of hot spots teams are backed away from, and that could end up actually having the inverse effect of what they wanted, where everyone tries to avoid these hot spots, which then leads to these kind of not very good compounds having 2-3 teams landed in them.
Yeah, and then you're going to get an absolutely massive shift like that too, Chunks, going right on up to the north section of the map. So if you're some of the teams on the outside looking in now, you've got yourselves a tough little rotate, as we've got a couple of bridge camps set up nice and early as well. But we're looking at QUESO here from Alpha 7. He had a pretty impressive game number 1. But what do you think they can improve on and from the last game? Because obviously, even if you win a game, there's always things that you could do to improve. What do you think Alpha 7 can improve on that last performance?
More eliminations. I want to see them just tear through the lobby completely. We should point out as well, I think our observers weren't unfortunately able to grab it, but it looks like LAZARUS ended up taking a fight over in their drop spot, taking a little bit of damage, and we've had a couple of trades here and there, so I think that's the nature of a drop like this. You can even see Loops actually taking a fight up against Knights as well. It looks like Sheaf has been able to come out on top of that one so far. So as much as we see the beautiful cinematics, there's a lot of scrappy engagements going on as well.
Yeah, it's funny, the kill feed's actually been quieter here on Sanhok than it was in some of the other games tonight. As we just watch Inco, the team sitting in second place, just getting on the move. Becker over there, he's picked himself up one of those exclusive guns to Sanhok, that QBZ. And, you know, Sanhok is a map that has its own charm, it has its own weapons. What is it about the QBC that you like, Chunks?
It just feels so easy to control, right? Is that just me? It feels like it's almost as easy as the M4, but it just feels like it punches harder.
It definitely
does. Is that
does.
just me? Is that just me, or is that everyone? I feel like that's just me, isn't it?
No, I think you've definitely got a point. You know, it's one of those guns, I think, that a fully kitted out M4 every day of the week you would take over it. But if you don't have all the attachments, it is a fantastic weapon to have. Mano there looks like he took a lot of damage in that gunfight as Loops managed to pick up a kill point for themselves in the early game as well. But as you kind of look around the landscape of where a lot of these teams are finding themselves, quite a few teams are inside that zone, even though it was such a heavy shift. I'm looking elsewhere at things that may kind of kick off, but if you look way down to the south, where this gunfight is actually kicking off right now between BULUC, CHABTAN and Alpha 7. Alpha 7 looking to capitalize on a good first game. Revo lit up in flames. Is he going to get the bandage off? No, he's not. He is going to hit the deck. So Alpha 7 now fighting with a hand behind their back as one member has fallen. QUESO throwing some defensive utility out the back, as it does look like LOTUS BULUC were able to get a res pulled off of their own. But Alpha 7, they need the rest of the team to come in and provide some support.
Ooh, that's unfortunate as well. Alpha 7's knock was actually a team knock, so really not what you want to be conceding. Credit to Alian, though, to be able to open up. Fires one, followed by a second. Beautifully done with the AK. It leaves only Swagman left up. He's trying to get caught out, but it's just not happening. Alpha 7 there, flushing away any elimination that they can, and in the end, it's them who are going to be flushed out. BULUC CHABTAN winning a fight, and with their position on the leaderboard, that will help them a lot. LAZARUS, though, also engaging over here. They have got a player knocked. They're going to be looking for the revive, but obviously still shots coming from upstairs. So LAZARUS do have to be careful about how they want to mount this one, or if they already taken out that squad and I'm just stupid.
I'm not quite sure what happened, but it does look like they're not in too much of a rush. So maybe they did get that elimination, but most importantly, they kept
they got three of them. I see.
Yeah. They kept all 4 members standing, though, and that is the big thing for going into these fights. The more people that you have standing, the better of a chance you have in the late game. And what you don't want in the early phases is one of those mutually, oh my god, my words
destructive. Is that what you're going for?
Mutually assured destruction. That's what you don't want to do in the early game.
Yeah, it's a rough one, isn't it? I mean, I think that Sanhok is really a tricky map for competitive in the early game. I think the late game, I love watching it, and it's always exciting. But I think that, especially with the way that our groups are set up currently, it makes it a little bit tricky for these teams. And granted, that's what we're looking for. We want the action. We want the scrappy fights, but it just feels like compounds and cities on Sanhok compared to maybe a Wrangle or Miramar are just so much more punishing to actually try and fight on. If you make one small mistake on Sanhok, you're just going to be caught from 3 different angles, especially in an area like CHABTAN where we saw that fight with LAZARUS actually go down.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. And other little buildings and villages, there's not a lot of lines of sight through windows. But when you come here to Sanhok, all of these buildings, they're nearly set up like mirrors where each side of the building is identical to the other. So one window looks the whole way through. And there's always a window on every side of the building too, which means even when you're indoors, Chunks, there's not very many places to hide without hitting the deck. But speaking of hiding, look at Nino pushing up on his belly towards his potential doom. Is he going to catch these guys out by surprise, Chunks?
Look, he's just over the ridge. It feels like Lucky's maybe heard something or is aware that, oh, maybe there could be a player over here. So he's playing slow as well, but as long as both players stay prone and both of them stay moving, I wonder if they're actually even going to be able to hear each other. It definitely seems like Nino is maybe getting a little bit more focused, thinks he hears a bit of movement, but not sure exactly where. You can see him checking behind and everything. But now maybe has a read on where Lucky is. He's calling out to his team. Loops start to open up to BULUC CHABTAN. This is a team that obviously have previously got themselves a couple of eliminations, but Loop's last game just absolutely popping off. Frag grenades will be coming out, but just a little bit short for now until Toyko gets caught with a big one.
Oh, and Loops already have 5 kills on the board in this one. As a little bit of third-party action's going to come in now too. Manor is just forced to pop that medkit as ESTORM are going to get eliminated in 14th place. 3 teams have dropped now with 7 minutes and 40 seconds on the clocks. ATON looks like Lucky did eventually spot out Nino, and Nino will get wiped out as well by that QBZ, but a little bit of pressure coming off, and the distance is Honored Souls peeking their heads up over that ridge. They've spotted them out, but Loops with 5 kills, Chunks, and a player knocked. They have started this game really well.
Cardozum right now is being very sneaky. For anyone who isn't aware, and I'll say exactly what Imperium said the other day. Currently in PUBG Mobile, there is a feature that means that when you jump and punch the air, it makes way less sound than when you're just walking or running along the floor. So that's what Cardozum was trying to do there to avoid giving away any audio cues. And I'll tell you, it certainly worked. Big high ground onto a Leon kid. And now look, CHABTAN starting to face some troubles. 5 eliminations already, though, for Loops. And that's not even including the players they're about to try and flush.
Yeah, but they got to be careful. Marion with a long-range spray. Look at that with the M4. Gets the knock on the one as Chief tries to spray him down from distance. But with Stoico down in the open, it's going to be really tough. But that's going to be the kill. Confirmed out as Chief is going to go and do a little bit of looting and reap the rewards. And Loops, having won a second gunfight of the day, 2 teams wiped, they've still got 4 members on the board. And regardless of whether or not they win this one here, Chunks, they're going to pick up a lot of points.
Oh, yeah, they've got a hell of a lot of points in the bag. This is going to be the way that they wanted to start off tonight. I do worry, though. Obviously, we have 5 games. We also have a bunch of groups that are getting swapped out regularly, so my biggest concern is that if Loops are in Group C and they end up going out this game, how's that going to affect the squad? Is it maybe going to slow down the momentum, or will they be able to keep it up? Because right now they are going hard, but all it takes is one slip up. If they, for instance, don't spot out Polar Ace right now, get eliminated, and then have to wait a game, that's going to weigh on the mental heavily for these guys.
It definitely will, and you know, Polar Ace, that ice cold temperature could be the thing that could cause Loops to slip. But KNGHT going for the jump, I don't think Loops have any idea. Maybe they just got the audio cue as KNGHT sprints towards them, and I think Loops, yeah, Chief is well aware of the presence of Troy, and KNGHT spots him out. Here comes the spray with the M4. The accuracy just not there. Lands a couple of shots, but KNGHT very lucky to still be standing on his feet as he eats another couple of 5.56 rounds.
Oh, this is rough right here for KNGHT, caught in no man's land. Loop's obviously unaware of the player up above, so it could work as a bit of fire support, but at least from Menel's angle, it doesn't look like there's really going to be any hope for it unless Polar Ace try and make some noise and Trey starts doing something aggressively, but that's just not happening. Cardozen is able to find KNGHT from the side, and it leaves Trey as the solo up on top of the hill. Loop seemingly don't want to fully commit onto this. There is a Nova player behind them that, I mean, with how the zone's set up, they can just kind of wait and hold out. So as long as Loop keep their wits about them, keep their eyes out, should be careful. But you know what? Eyes peeled right there as they just land a beautiful couple headshots onto QZ.
They're fighting multiple different teams at once, and they're no worse for wear. This is exactly the start that Loops would have wanted in this one. Cardozo's going to hit the deck again. But if you are Loops, if you're the rest of the lobby, Chunks, you're wondering who put the 50p or the 50 cent inside them in this one, because they are popping off right now.
They are absolutely, it's really impressive. See, I mean, right now it seems like they're just posted up. They realize they've done damage to Polar Ace, who are starting to move back. They're still kind of getting a little bit aggressive. I don't want to say aggressive, maybe exploratory, where they're just flexed out a little bit. They're getting a read. They're thinking, hey, Polar Ace have moved on a little bit. We can take a bit more ground, but they're still keeping Cardozen behind, just watching the angles, making sure that Nova aren't going to be able to sneak up. So as QZ just lays prone, hate to break it to you, but you are going to be in the blue for quite a while, and it's not going to be easy to get out of it with Loops just basically tunnel visioned onto you.
Yeah, it's just gatekeeping. Gatekeeping 101 here by Loops. They're feeling it. They're on form. They know that there's another free point on the board. Really, QZ needs to get that open and knock, the opening kind of damage marker on this engagement that gives him a ability to push on out of this Chunks. The helmet's not looking good. The vest isn't bad, Nick, as well. And he's going to start making his move now. But Stoico is it Toiko? Stoico has got his number lined on, and he's just biding his time to pop his head up and take those shots.
Yeah, Toiko sees the movement right there. You can see QZ just jiggling in between the buildings. So I think he realizes that he is going to be forced to make a move as now he does start to swing out, goes for the peak. Toiko just waiting. 8 on 7 also posted up in a compound of their own. Nowhere really to be found. They're close to Paradise, but not close enough where it makes you concerned that 3 or 4 teams are going to all run into their location. As long as they're keeping eyes out, they're making a little bit of noise. I don't they have to worry too much. But obviously a team like HS could do some damage. Toiko now just waiting as QZ tanks the blue. You got to think he's going to try and make the run, but Nova are known for busting out a heal strat in situations like this.
Yeah, and this could be really... Oh no, look, Nova, he's got a vehicle. He's going to get on the move.
This is
nice
big.
Scenario. Oh, he's rotating. Oh my God, Cardozen with the big spray. Look at the range on that. That M4 4 times absolutely annihilated QZ, and that is kill number 9 for Loops. They are continuing their relentless pursuit of perfection in game number 2 of the night. The zone, though, Chunks, it's going to shift. What is this going to cause for the rest of the lobby?
I don't know, but Loops right now, I'm not sure whether you saw, that's 10 eliminations that they're currently sat on. They just managed to flush that one out, making it 10. The zone, though, has gone up to the north. Now, all I'm going to say is Loops have carried some momentum so far this game. They are coming out swinging. If they run into a team like Polar Ace, who they've already managed to eliminate one of their players, which, I mean, they have to push north somehow to get into zone, you've got to be a little bit concerned. Lazarus, they will be losing players, I believe, out here in the blue. Not ideal for them. No, that's actually up towards Inco, I believe, who was able to take down that player. So they are going to try and move their way through, maybe hoping that Vivo Key can third party from above.
Yeah, the enemy of my enemy is my friend is what they're hoping right now. You know, the best of enemies is the way you put it, but look at those shots coming in from Adrian, and he gets one knock. Inco now in a bad spot. The spray coming on out. That's going to be good night, Irene, for V2, as Vivo managed to successfully hold the bridge, but now taking some shots from the distance. He's going to be forced to fall back, and XSET now fighting Polar Ace.
XSET, you know what? I like the strategy. They've been struggling to find eliminations. They've been struggling to make it in the end game. They found something that works. The nade is there, but it's all for naught. Polog needs to be careful of that grenade. XSET all do, but they should be all right to loot as it ended up landing outside. That's 2 eliminations for XSET, but they haven't lost a player, and that's the important thing in a zone like this. They're over in Paradise. I wouldn't expect too many teams to start moving through as long as they can get the heal up. They basically have free reign of the southern zone.
Imagine running up the stairs, Chunks, to find 4 prone players sitting in the little the little outlook ready to pounce and wipe you out. That was worst case scenario. The worst case scenario for Lazarus now, as Golden is just on the deck. I don't know if Sajat has any clue that he is there, as Golden's just going to play that snake. Cooking that nade now. Let's see if he can catch himself a big fish with it. But Sajat is just going to fall back down the distance. Inco, he wants to toss the nade. He wants to make it happen. But he's not going to get the opportunity. Finally chucks it over the edge. Cooks it for a little bit too long, though, Chunks. And it's going to blow before it can get anywhere near doing some damage.
Hold on, though. Preps another. It's close there to AJAT, but fortunately, not able to make it happen. Maybe another will work, but it seems like they're just on the wrong side of things right now. Maybe a little bit closer than AJAT actually is. But now as Inco start to move more players up, the long-range fire starts to become a problem. I can't help but notice, though, look down at that leaderboard on the right-hand side of your screen. Look at how many eliminations there are, and then just look at what Loops are doing. They are really on another level, stealing the show. And they have just about come in through the southern side of the zone. For anyone who doesn't have a map stream up, they're just kind of chilling there right now. In the same way XSET are just vibing. They don't have a care in the world. They want someone else to push up.
They're just going to play that same trap twice in a row, and will it work 2 times is the question. But yeah, I made your point. Out of all the teams that are still alive and kicking, Loops have more kills than all of them combined. That is an impressive start to game number 2. Phase 2, though, it's getting ready to pop on. This is going to just compound the misery for some of these teams even more. But for once, Chunks, we get a nice little donut zone. And for those teams that are already in there, like ENTZ, they're going to be loving that. And for Loops as well, it's not too far of a journey north, not too much of a migration. But I'm looking in Cow. We got 2 teams inside there right now, and they're going to have to fight this one out before either of them can make it into the zone.
I gotta say, Gibson, this is one of those zones that tricks people into thinking it's friendly. You have to take into account, you see that massive hill by the lake in the very center of the zone? That is wide open. There's about 3 trees on the entire hill, so there is no cover to get right there. It is very much, I think, going to be the Lazarus show right now. If they can post up, make some noise, really few teams will actually be able to get anywhere near them. Delta Stars, though, are going to be a team that hope to do exactly that, as they need to get a couple players out of Cow to group up with the rest of the squad over at Tap Mark, but it doesn't seem like they have a vehicle or anything to do it, so they might just need to get a couple of elims to actually start making any progress at all.
Yeah, they need to. An ISURUS game in here as well. Another team that need to get their day up and running. But as I say that, curse of the caster, as one of them is going to hit the deck. They're going for a little bit of swim. You know, their logo is the shark, Chunks. And they got to live up to it with that little bit of a swimming in the ocean. I like it.
Yeah, I like it, you know, get into that water, try something a little bit different. Unfortunately, though, now they have to try and get that player from the water into the zone with Lazarus looking at him. Now, don't get me wrong, Valvida is still alive, but it doesn't seem like he has any idea where those vehicles are, where the players are. And Delta Stars have just used that, said peace, and dipped. So it's really going to be tough now for ISURUS, especially considering, look, 5 first aids, 5 bandages. That seems like a heal strategy to me. Same being said for Nova. Look at this, 23 first aids, but able to get themselves a nice little elim out of it. Nice first elim point of the game.
Yeah, Nova, they find themselves in a tough spot. You said it, you're sort of cover inside the zone, so maybe that heal strat is the way to go if you find yourself on the outside looking elsewhere around the map. Though a lot of teams just finally making their way in towards that southern section as ISURUS Jessup does get out of the water and back onto dry land as he's going to get a little bit of company now too. Stoico from Loops with a spray, not able to find his target this time around, but they got to be careful because they've got a nice compound and there's not very many nice compounds in this zone, so people are going to want to take that away from them.
They really will. The question is, can they? Obviously, Loops are just about on the edge. If this zone doesn't go hard down to the south, there's no real need to fight a team like Loops. They're going to have to make a move instead. It looks like right now, though, we're going to hop on board with ATON 7 up against XSET. Obviously, Nova sneaking up round the back as well could absolutely cause some problems, but it seems like a bit of a nade battle, just frag grenades going back and forth. They are landing close. We have seen a knock, but as of yet, no elimination. And I gotta say right now, Gibson, that zone just went hard up to the north, and there are so many teams on the southern side that need to cross a very open valley and street.
I don't know if you're the same age as me, Crop, but do you remember the wacky races from back in the day?
Oh, man. You're showing your age here, man.
That's what it's going to be like for those teams pushing up from the south to try and get their way. And you know what? I am a little bit older. You know, I don't have a 3 at the first front of my name just yet, Chunks, but I'm not too far away from using the index finger on my phone. So mobile game for me is getting harder as I get a little bit older.
Look, I'm feeling it, and I'm only 22, so I don't blame you. Look, XSET, they're really feeling it right now. They've only got Polog left up. Spoke too soon. Loops are there to finish up the job. Just sweeping their way in through the southern side right now. With only 2 players left up, that's pretty impressive. But they need to get those heals, because this zone is going to start doing damage pretty quick. Inco, up on the northern side, do finally find an opening onto Lazarus. They have been able to confirm a flush to go with it. This is what I'm worried about for Lazarus. Sure, it's all well and good having a strong position, but if you split out a little too much, it causes major problems. Golden, though, sent it in himself, gets a little bit too overconfident and faces problems of his own. Now it's just down to Fizz and Joey sweeping their way through to grab the hillside.
Yeah, Lazarus in a prime position now to win this one out as Loops lose another player to a knock with 1 man standing. But Lazarus, they're fighting multiple teams now. They've got multiple players pushing on up, and Grelin just hits the deck as his teammate's going to hit the floor. More shots coming in as Grelin gets that knockdown now too. And the rest of Lazarus want some instant revenge. They want to get their teammate back on his feet, but that ain't happening right now. And that kill looks like it was stolen away, was it, Chunks? So a point denied.
Not ideal, but you know what? Lazarus can still work with this. Obviously, 2 players down low. Now, one of them knocked. This does kind of change things. It looks like VIVO Keyed going to start making a push over. They do accidentally nade their own teammate, but it looks like Lazarus nearly end up nading themselves. The hipfire comes out. Lazarus take damage, and down they go out in 9th position. Followed closely, though, by another squad in 8th. So we down... It was 8 on 7, I should say, out in 8. So we now only have 7 teams remaining. I gotta say it, VIVO Key, they took what I thought was going to be Lazarus's endgame position that they won very, very easily out of, and now they have control of it. So it's just really made things tricky to predict, and if I'm going with the same logic, going with the same position, VIVO Key should have this. They've got high ground, they've got line of sight all over the zone. No other team is anywhere near it. They just need to hold squads out and take as many shots as possible.
Yeah, time the enemy for the rest of the lobby now as VIVO Key have so much control up on this ridge. They're taking pot shots. They do lose a player to knock. Adrian has been put down to his knees, but fighting in the blue is the worst thing possible. Delta
It's
Stars,
a heal strat. Yeah, this is the point that we see a lot of the time in PUBG Mobile. When we have a very open zone like this, teams will really just play a game of chicken. Nobody wants to move. They already know that VIVO KNGHT have won the game, so everyone's just trying to heal up, use all of their meds. So it is going to become a bit of a battle for who has the last few meds, because nobody's really making a move. I believe Nova still have a player up. That's going to be VIVO KNGHT, ISURUS, and I forget what other team it is. There it is. Diego does end up taking down one. Inco still with Becca. He's just sneaking his way in. He can actually see Adrian up there. He should maybe think about going prone, because exposing yourself like that to a player on top of a hillside isn't really the best strategy, I'll be honest.
Yeah, and speaking of that, Adrian is going to pick up that point as the player continues to close on, and Ren here from INTZ just doing that med strat, like you said. Not a lot of players left as I look around the zone. We got 4 teams left, just 3 solos on the edge, medding their way in, just trying to outlive each other as another member will drop. And Zren peeks out the side door. He's going to fall. VIVO KNGHT get the win. And you know, you talk about macro play coming in trumps. Well, they took the best position in the map chunks and they made it count.
I'm a little bit upset. LAZARUS held that position. LAZARUS, in my opinion, probably should have won the game. I think that they had the strongest position. Now, I will give it to them. They were lacking one player. They were down to a 3-man, so that's obviously going to make things tricky. But the downside to what LAZARUS did, at least from my point of view, is they played a little bit overly split, it feels like. They weren't really holding an area as a team. It felt like every individual was watching kind of 3 different angles. What I think maybe would have been best is play this hill that VIVO KNGHT ended up working on in the end. Just hold that. Send 1 or 2 players a little bit northern to make sure no one's coming in from Cal or swimming through the water and sneaking up that way. But outside of that, I think that they maybe just got a little bit too spread, which allowed VIVO KNGHT to come up, get themselves an opening knock, and then it was a 2v1, one well-placed nade, 1v2, and then it was all over for LAZARUS. So really impressive for VIVO KNGHT to identify that position and take it to their full advantage. That gives them, though, the chicken dinner, and that gives them a clean 26 points. But INTZ, just off the heel strategy, getting 15.
Not bad for them. 15 points. Loops with those 12 eliminations as well. Pick up 14 for themselves with Delta Stars as well. You know, a nice little mix of eliminations and placement, coming in 4th with 12 points. Inco, ISURUS, 8 and 7, and Nova Esports round out your top 8. But, well, you know, 2 teams that I'm very surprised to see at the bottom chunks, Alpha 7 and Knights, not a single point on the board.
I'm going to say it, all right? With early game fights, you can't really say much about that, you know? I think because both teams took early game engagement, it's not the end of the world to have a 0-point game. I think the real problem becomes, is it going to become a pattern? For one of these teams, no, it is not. Alpha 7, obviously out in the lead, absolutely tearing things up. It will be a little bit closer now that Inco have got a 5th place, though. Knights, however, it feels like they just haven't been able to chain things together, and they have been losing one player, which kind of tears the team apart. So I think Knights do need to change it, step it up. But taking a look over at how VIVO KNGHT did, they stole the show. 11 eliminations, so many bullets fired, so many meds used, but very little utility outside of those 6 frag grenades that they used, pretty much all of them in that LAZARUS fight.
Yeah, and I think they found themselves in a position where most of the engagements they took, apart from the LAZARUS one, were long range, so utility usage wasn't necessarily something that they could use a lot. But look at that distance travel too. They covered a lot of ground in that one, and they really earned those 11 kills.
Really impressive indeed. Taking a look over at the MVP, though, it's actually a repeat of last game. Cardozin, again, coming out strong, this time with 5 eliminations, consistently getting those points on the board for the team, and definitely a contributing factor to Luke's success tonight.
Yeah, 2 games in a row, 2 MVPs. Is he going to make it a clean sweep? I'm not sure if Loop's group will be in the next game, but he has shown everything he is capable of doing. And another thing that it tells me, Chunks, when you look at the HP that he has actually healed to, he's not taking a lot of damage back the other way like some of the other players. He is winning most of the fights that he gets himself into.
All I'm going to say is if you aim for the head, your opponent isn't going to get too many chances to shoot back. And I think that's something Cardozo kind of has down to an art form. I will say, though, in terms of the eliminations, VIVO KNGHT also up there. McGrellin, Diego, Adrian, all with either 4 or 3 eliminations. Really impressive to see. And a lot of rounds fired from them as well to be able to get those eliminations on the board. But I will say, Becca able to really get, I guess we should call it the Iron Man award, traveling a long way, healing up a lot. Clearly did not have an easy game for Inco there.
Yeah, but he did well. He picked up a couple of points, and I've got to be impressed with the fact that I look at Inco. All 3 of the most, mobile players were on that side as well. Inco just didn't have a nice time on the rotates. But VIVO KNGHT, look at Adrian as well, topping even more stats. I think one of the things that I love about PUBG Mobile is how in-depth we can actually get with some of these stats too. Chunks, it really gives you a good idea of how a team played out the map.
You know what gives you an even better idea? Is looking at the scoreboards. Let's do that right now. Alpha 7 out in first, 204 points. I thought that Inco having a good game and Alpha 7 having a bad one was going to make any difference to the standings. I was wrong, clearly. But VIVO KNGHT have now definitely solidified a 3rd place with only a couple points between them and 5th.
Yeah, they jumped up and they got above Influence Rage, who dropped on down. Loops as well. They're now 1 point off Influence Rage as well, who are at risk of dropping further. But Chunks, they weren't in the last map. They're going to be back in it next time around, and they're going to be looking to climb that table. But what I do like is the fact that Alpha 7, when they went out earlier, it did allow Inco to close that gap just a little bit more. And it's nice to see that 15 teams as well, Chunks, are in triple figures now for points too.
Yeah, really nice indeed. A lot of teams starting to get up there. I do worry for teams like Polar Race, ISURUS, ESTORM. Really struggling. I will say, though, BULUC CHABTAN showed real promise in a couple of the fights that we saw them take tonight. So I hope to see more of that throughout the evening. XSET, Delta Stars, Black Dragons, Knights, all teams that have had kind of shines of light, but unfortunately haven't been able to chain things together just yet. And look, we're on day 5 out of 8. You've got to start wondering, how long can these teams really get away from it for? Can they even get back into the top 3? I think if they did, it would really have to be the performance of a lifetime over the next few days.
Yeah, well, a 10 kill win would give, or 10 elimination win, sorry, would give you 25 points, Chunks. And that, a couple of games like that might help you climb that table and keep things a little bit interesting. But Chunks, it's not just about your performance. There's 15 other teams in every single lobby. They're picking up points left, right, and center. And the closer we get to day 8, we get closer to a term that, a lot of us in the EU would know as squeaky bum time.
I like that one. I like that one. Look, we are getting closer to the end of things. We're getting closer to the end of day number 5, and we're getting closer to game 3 of the evening, but we're not there just yet, so we'll be taking a short break. We'll be back in about 2 or 3 minutes with game number 3 of the evening.
They could catch up, for maybe some of the younger viewers. You've got that blue shell in Mario Kart. Firing that
now
thing.
that's more relatable.
Yeah, to catch that team out at the start. But Alpha 7, they already went out in one game tonight with 0 points, Chunks. And they're not going to be playing in the next one. So if they don't pick up a lot of points here in this one, that'll be 3 maps out of 5 tonight where they haven't necessarily played to their full standard. But the one map they did, they won. So they're still somehow growing that lead at the top.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it, to be able to find that balance. But anyway, we'll see. Game number 3 of the evening is underway. We are over here on the beautiful sunny deserts of Miramar with a pretty standard playing path. Everyone should be able to get roughly where they need to go. Yet again, it is going to be one of those situations where if you want to go maybe Pozo, a little bit further north, you are going to struggle. So maybe going to see 1 or 2 alt drops come out here.
Yeah, we probably will. And, that pilot at the front of the play is going to be saying, if you look to your left, you'll see Los Leones. You look to your right, you'll see Hacienda del Patron. Conditions on the ground are cloudy with a chance of death, Chunks, with the way this one is going. But I made the call on a couple of hot drops in Chimichera. Well, Chimichera's pretty much bang on that flight path. It's got to be said, the flight paths tonight have been pretty player-friendly so far. We haven't had anything too crazy so far.
Look, we've had some wacky circles, and I think that's enough for these teams to have to try and negotiate, isn't it? I mean, the circles can be so brutal here in PUBG Mobile. Just yesterday, we had like an Impala ending. We had an ending that was half water over on Erangel. So there have been some messy ones, and you know what? The plane can be deceptive sometimes. That's all I'm going to say, Gibson.
PUBG giveth and PUBG taketh away, I suppose, is the way to put it. But it keeps you on your toes. I think that's what really lets PUBG stand out ahead of other FPS games across all platforms, is the fact that you've got that RNG nature. Not every game is the same. So it's not just down to mechanical skill alone. It's all down to the decisions that these IGLs make, the decisions these players make. And we actually get a not too bad circle right here, but hot drop perspective, I was wrong. Chimichera completely free territory right now, but San Martin up there looking like a very different story.
I will say, outside of maybe San Martin, it doesn't look like things are super contested. XSET are going to maybe tell me something different, though, as Killswitch gets taken out. I mean, what do you expect? You're a solo and 4 players from Team Queso land on you. It's going to be a rough one. Polog does have himself a micro Uzi and I believe crossbow, so probably not the best combination now that Queso are up close and personal, doing what they can to try and sneak up. It's down to a 1v1. Uzi Polog still just going to be holding up the top, pistol in hand from the teammate, getting ready to make a move. In comes the push, the pre-fire is there, shoots down the door, does some damage, not going to be enough for the knock, but in the end, Alia is there and shuts things down. Going for a couple more pistol shots over towards J-Way, not able to connect. Queso should be able to get back up to a 4-man in relatively short time.
Permission to go for a cheesy statement, cheesy one-liner?
Oh, we've been busting out the cheese puns all night. Go for it.
Say it's a bit of a cheesy situation there as XSET get wiped by Team Queso. Oh, I'm sorry. Queso, of course, being Spanish for cheese. I'm sorry.
All I'm going to say is Imperium's puns were better.
Well, look, he is like I am the B-Tech version.
I shouldn't compare.
Yeah, he's look, the primary. I was found at the side of the road.
I think we're all cheese punned out at this point. If you got some new ones, feel free to drop them. But we've been dropping a lot of cheese puns. I feel like we'll really struggle to find some more, but we'll try.
Yeah, we will. You gotta try damn hard to get a better pun than that. Like, to be honest.
They gotta try damn hard. I like it. I like it. That's a new one. Okay, we'll see. I kind of want the observers to just stay on Queso whenever they take a fight, so we can try and come up with cheese puns, because it's gonna be a. I'm not sure who it's more challenging for, them playing the game or us just googling cheese facts to try and make a joke out of it.
Yeah, well, look, they're trying to influence what we're saying now by swapping over to Rage to watch. See what it did there? See what it did there? As we move on. But look, getting back to a more serious note, apart from that one team wipe, or one, 3 out of a squad wipe, as XSET took heavy casualties in that one, it's been a pretty peaceful start to game number 1 of the night. As we do look at some stats going through in this one, Influence, is that 96 kills that they have picked up over the course of all the play days so far? That's an impressive tally right there.
Yeah, really good to keep tally of all this stuff. I will say, though, if you look at the healing compared to the eliminations, it's pretty surprising. You'd usually expect maybe a team that has a lot more eliminations to be taking a lot more scrappy fights and taking a lot of damage in return, but that's not really the case. So I think it shows here that Influence Rage are very conscious of what fights they take, and they always try to make sure that they are in the strongest position to take said fights.
Yeah, Influence Rage, you look at the tables, well, it's been reflected by how they've been playing, and every time we seem to bring up the table, we switch on over to Alpha 7, who are leading the way in this one, playing up in that open area. And you spoke about the fact that they noticed this little strat on PUBG Mobile where if you punch and jump you make no noise. Well, that's pretty evident. I'm seeing a lot of that now, Chunk, since you pointed that out.
Yeah, it's a strategy, isn't it? I mean, if it's allowed, then why wouldn't you use it? I get it, it slows you down, it can be a little bit inconvenient, you're exposing yourself, but if you got it, use it. That's what I say.
Exactly. Use everything you can. Stoico now, or sorry, Toiko.
Not on your teammates, Toiko. Come on.
Yeah, look, he's just practicing his recoil control.
He was really taking everything we said word for word, wasn't he? Just like, take every chance that you can to practice. And then he's just aiming at his teammates. Thankfully, he missed. I think that's the first time a player will be happy they missed a shot.
Yeah, well, look, if it was me and I was practicing my aim to try and miss my teammate, I would definitely hit them.
Oh, yeah, I'm really good at practicing missing my teammates. I'm really good at that.
It's my driving too. Like, you think my aim is good, you should see my driving. I guarantee you, if there's a tree on the road, I will hit it. But it's all fun and games. That's part of the reason why that if I am allowed to play, I am always the guy in the back seat, not allowed to shoot, not allowed to drive, just stay alive. You gotta pick up the meds and do the heal strat.
I know that my next excuse for when I whiff a full magazine on an enemy is going to be I was just practicing shooting near him. You know, just working on my aim. Didn't want to hurt them. Wanted to shoot near him. That's my new excuse. I like it.
You wanted to see how they danced, see what their moves were like. But speaking of dancing, we got Lazarus here inside the arena. In the middle as Joey is picking up some nice toys for himself to play with. Lazarus, once again, in the last game, they picked up a couple of points, but I don't know whether it's the zones, whether it's the way they play, but they don't seem to get in a lot of engagements, and it shows. But look at this Toiko now, going to get into a gunfight. Spray coming on out, but that buggy, the back seat being pretty much impermeable to bullets, really helped out the Pittsburgh Knights. But they have their eyes set on Loops Esports. They want to take them out of this one as soon as possible. But I think Loops just made enough noise that there was enough beating of the chest chunks that has forced Pittsburgh Knights to fall back.
It's the M249, isn't it? No one wants to come up against it. That thing is deadly. You see how it shredded that vehicle. So yeah, Knights will be moving back. They need to be careful, though, because Xenox is right down below, as is Coop. Sure, the smokes are there. You got to remember, when you're looking from above down towards a smoke, you usually have a much better angle. I'll tell you what, though, Tensor and Chico working together to take down Toiko. That was really impressive. Menel's going to have to try and go for the revive, but that looks like it's the cue for Xenox to actually push up, go for the flush. Should be able to get that. Does he know there's going to be more players coming? Not just yet. Should be able to hear the footsteps. Goes for the flush as the rest of Knights now move along to try and provide some support. The fire comes through. It's Chief from Loops who's able to shut down Xenox as Tensor watches out. Little does he know he's being peppered from range. The frag grenade is close. Is it going to roll in the correct direction? There's a player getting rezzed. If it lands, it could be over, but no. Just a little bit short this time. A second one follows through. That one's not cooked, though. Knights, fortunately, not getting anything out of this, and Loops are back up to a 4-man.
Oh, wow. Loops, that res is going to be massive in the grand scheme of things. And Knights now with a man down, they managed to get the res off as well. But you just look at the little, it's the fine margins, Chunks. They came so close to picking up a point. But now Loops with 4 men back up there, hungry. They want to feast now. Look at the spray coming out from the M249. And Toiko is not going to make the same mistake that the Knights made. He's going to get that point confirmed as soon as possible. And he's going to wrap all the way around as they try to close that fist tightness around Knights inside Minas Gerais. But look at Chico. Chico might just sneak in the back door here and catch Chief by surprise.
Could cause a problem. Or, alternative opinion, Chico could get spotted out. That's exactly what happens. And it comes, unfortunately not able to connect. Nade is going to be attempted. Very successful as Chico just plays for safety, preps one of his own. It could end up working out. He should hear the shots coming through. Doesn't know exactly where the player is, though. It seems like they have a read on him. Knights, Chico gets down behind cover, tries to go for the hip fire. Not going to work out. He's able to take a bit of damage onto Chief in return. Knights could go for the fight, but honestly, they've lost 2 players. They don't really have much to work with. They should probably just try and either hunker down in a warehouse, hope they don't get naded apart, or just get away to cover.
Man, Cardozo is on one tonight. I gotta say, of all the players that are playing in this lobby tonight, I think he's on another level right now with the way he's been picking up those points for Loops. And a lot of their success tonight, you know, it is a team game, Chunks, but a lot of their success has come down to that fragging ability by Cardozo.
Oh yeah, it feels like there's no question he's MVP of the night so far. Nobody has kind of come close. I mean, what, every game is it, or 2 of the games we've had him as the MVP? He's been consistently dominating the stat lines. Credit to him. You know, take that and use it. Put it forward. Keep implementing the same strategies. Keep applying that pressure because it's clearly working for you. And until teams adapt, just keep doing the same thing. Punish them. Get as many elimination points as you can. Make it to the late game, and you know what? Loops are looking good for that right now because they are pretty much dead center in this circle. The only problem is maybe if a team moves in through Minas, takes that big Minas hill, they might just have a line of sight. So that could cause some problems, but I don't think that's the top of their concerns right now. I think they want to finish Knights first.
Yeah, you can't really take any cover in this one until you get rid of the Knights, and that is the goal right now. XSET, though, trying to get some revenge on the team QUESO as they fight on the edge of the zone. XSET going for that bandage. He has no first aid kits left at all. He's about to peek around the wall. He's going to get wiped. No, he's not. He's going to stay on his feet and fire back. Hits the deck, goes prone, does a little leap, jump, hop, and a skip, and falls to his knees as XSET are our first team eliminated, Chunks. And we waited a long time for our first team wipe, and we may be about to get another one straight after, as the Knights now down to just 1 remaining member. Full retreat coming on in, but Loops ready to finish what they started.
You mentioned it, Sanhok still holding up. Out comes a nade, though, to try and finish off the job. But before that, Cardozo was there to do it himself. Alpha 7 also making a push right now. It looks like we're potentially going to lose quite a few teams at once. LAZARUS, a team that so far this evening have really kind of avoided fights and put themselves in a good position. Now, unfortunately, just getting wiped off the face of the earth with only Kaseki left up. Rise will fall out in 14th position, so sure, it gets them at 1 place, but is that going to be enough, especially as he gets peppered from behind? It's going to be INTZ in the end who steal away that elimination point and take it down to only 12 teams.
Yeah, that was a hectic few moments that we had right there with 4 teams going out in the space of about 30 or 40 seconds. Influence Rage, they're another one of those teams we spoke about that are having a great day, picking up a lot of points, but all eyes on Loops, and that's exactly what they're doing as well. They'll see the vehicles in this compound that were brought by the Knights earlier, so they're going to know there's a team in this compound. The question is, can they get that open and knocking? It's a bit of a frying pan terrain we have here too, with that high ground all around these buildings. These players from Loops, they don't want to be that egg that gets scrambled in the middle of it.
No, and you know what? Influence Rage aren't being subtle about it. I'm a little bit surprised that they haven't seen anyone from Loops yet. It seems like Loops have realized, hey, we pushed into this position. that we knew isn't very good to try and get these 2 eliminations, and now we're kind of stuck here. If Loops try and move back, Influence Rage just shut them down. Loops basically have no choice now but to stay in this compound, because if they try to even move buildings, the chances are someone's going to spot them out and someone's going to punish them. So their only real hope is that maybe someone down towards Hacienda starts taking shots towards Influence Rage, causes a distraction, and gets them the hell out of there.
Yeah, Influence Rage, though, they want to pick these points off. And it's like you said, as a third party, I think the Loops need a little bit of help. They find themselves in the situation that the Knights were in earlier, that they were able to take advantage of Federal holding some lines of sight. So is Floss. So I'm just surprised at how much noise Influence are making. They're not subtle at all, like you said.
I'm not sure whether Influence Rage actually know that there's a team here, which sounds insane because obviously it was a fight so recently, but Influence Rage moved over from Minas after the shots had already kicked off, after Loops were starting to loot. Now they will have a read on this because Loops are making some noise, but Influence Rage can really just sit and wait and make the most out of this position.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they're set up to do. The zone does pop again recently, and it really is just a graveyard and Minas zone. A lot of teams on the outside making their way in now, but Loops really are surrounded on all sides. But with a position like this, I would expect someone else to maybe get a little bit thirsty in a bit and push those positions that Influence are currently holding.
Yeah, Dementor just going to be holding here, trying to get some lines of sight. Influence Rage just keeping an eye out, really, just waiting for Loops to make a move. I think this is going to be one of those slow burns where it maybe even comes down to just a final zone or something, or a shift that really changes the tide of things. I wouldn't expect it to be one of these teams getting aggressive onto the other, unless maybe Influence Rage can sneak their way up to one of the walls and want to take a fight like that. I really don't see it going in the way that most fights typically would.
Yeah, maybe they could just find themselves, in that nightmare neighbor next door situation where they'll make a lot of noise, but at the same time, cover each other's backs. Just don't turn your back too much or they'll get stabbed, and that's exactly what Revo has done as Alpha 7 push now onto Polar. And I gotta admit, Polar, they've really not had a good day so far, have they? They've found themselves on the wrong end of multiple gunfights, and really they've spent more time retreating from fights tonight than actually taking them on.
You got your cheese pun earlier, so give me this one.
Polar
Ace have been iced a few times tonight.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it, though. I'm all for it.
Hey, here we go. Look at that shift, though. That is going to be a rough one. If Polar Ace want to make it in, they're going to need ice in their veins because there's only one player left up, and that is a long hillside to go down, especially if you look at that mini-map and see how teams are clustered up. That western side is pretty much going to become impenetrable in a few seconds when these teams have actually pulled up. They're in position. If you're late, if you're a team like Alpha 7 and expect to swing round to the south, you've got another thing coming. Team QUESO will be out of it. That stinks for them, just like some blue cheese. But BULUC CHABTAN are going to be more than happy with the elimination point. Happy to eat that one up like a nice slice of brie.
I was about to say that you gotta believe that there's still a chance, but you used the brie pun.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, dang it. But look, BULUC CHABTAN, picking up what you said, they impressed you in a couple of fights earlier. And I'm not going to lie, yeah, they've had some very good moments tonight so far, so I'm hoping that they can really get some placement points to go with those kills that we've seen so far. So, picking up the kills on Team QUESO there, you gotta say that was a good sign.
Yeah, you got to, but at the end of the day, they started with 3 players. One of those players is already dead. It doesn't bode well for them this game. Look, they've got points, I'll give them that, but they need to step it up. I as much as they've shown signs of life tonight, I don't think it's good enough for them to get praised just yet. If they win a game, if they get a couple more eliminations, then I might change my tune. But for now, not being able to get players consistently into the end game is their biggest problem, and until that changes, I can't fully get behind them, really.
Well, there you go, guys. If you want to get Chunks' seal of approval, you gotta win games. He is a hard man to please.
You just gotta make it to the end game a bit more. Like, this is the thing with BULUC CHABTAN, they are playing well. Don't get me wrong. They are getting a couple of nice fights, nice engagements, nice positions, but they're just not consistently making it to the end game. And look, it's a battle royale. It's all about winning the game at the end. Sure, you want to get some eliminations on the way, but if you're not going the distance and at least getting into, say, 1 in 5 end games, then something's wrong, you know? Like, if you're a top team, something's wrong if you're not getting up there consistent.
Oh, exactly. And that's the difference. All these players on a mechanical standpoint are pretty much at the same level. You know, they're all pros at the end of the day, but the difference between the teams at the top and the teams at the bottom is that macro play, the decision making, the rotates. Like, look at Alpha 7 now. They're pushing right up now on VIVO Key because they know that the position being held by them is a strong one. So they don't want to let VIVO Key get bunkered on in, and they want to pick up those points for themselves. But they got to be careful, because I'm looking off in the distance as well, and I see Nino once again being a little bit sneaky for Honored Souls.
Here you go, looking up there, trying to find a bit of an opening, and that circle is brutal for so many of these squads. It's going to be a LABND finish by the looks of things. If not, then it's going to be that mean-ass open area. So, look, if you're not on LABND Hill either now or within the next few seconds, you're really going to struggle to make it into this zone. You are going to have so many teams looking down on you. Thankfully for Alpha 7, they have themselves a bit of an opening, but they're still only about halfway to zone.
Oh, I love Bandita finishes, though. That bowl is just a slice of heaven to cast. VIVO Key, they're trying to take a good position on it now already. And, you know, McGrellan's just having a look around. He spots off a couple of players in the distance and just doing that scouting role ever so well. We got 3 teams now inside this small little area. 2 compounds being shared. That compound being held by influencers. And I think McGrellan has heard enough. He has saw enough. And he's going to reposition himself again. He knows that that's not somewhere you want to push, especially considering it is outside the zone.
Yeah, he wants to try and swing in here. The problem now becomes, okay, what spots are there actually inside the zone? It's all well and good taking a vehicle and going for a rotation, but now he really has to thread the needle. He's playing a gambling game right now. LABND, sure, it's free, but if he goes into that and the zone shifts away, it's going to be hard to get out with so many squads up on the ridges. So it does become a bit of a gamble play, and I will say it, VIVO Key, they've just sent those players into LABND. It's a gamble, but it's a form of safety for at least this phase.
It really is. And, you know, we're getting into that healing phase as well. As Cardozan again lighting up the kill feed as he gets another player knocked to his knees, and he's going to confirm that one out as Jessup will be eliminated. Now, Influence Rage, they have turned their attention up the hill. Martin's taking a lot of damage on that one, but the smoke providing that all-important cover that will allow them to push on into the zone. This is game number 3 of the night. We're a Miramar. We still got a lot of players up and standing with 22 minutes on the clock, and Alpha 7, they're on the outside looking on in. And you gotta say, the influencers there, Influence Rage, are in a very good position now to potentially wipe out Alpha as they make their move in.
The problem that Influence Rage could face is going to be the teams from behind. Alpha 7 swinging up to the north should be able to get over to the hillside, play themselves a couple of little dips, but it's really going to be the other teams on the hill that cause the problems. Alpha 7 actually end up completely exposing themselves to Influence Rage, which is a little surprising considering Influence Rage were the ones that were taking the shots, that were making noise. It feels like Alpha 7 should have known about that position and should never really have opened themselves to it. Black Dragons do also hear the shots, by the way. They're down to the south on the hillside. They're not getting involved just yet, but rest assured, if they try to get aggressive down on this hillside, they more than likely will get involved. Honored Souls, though, do have a solo up in this position, and out comes the nade. Down goes Eats. Nicely done as Black Dragons start to trade things out. Nino moves in midair, tries to go for the hit fire. It's just not going to be enough shot out of the sky. It's all down to Myth as the final player for Honored Souls. He's going to try and get the team back up. But Black Dragons, if they have one more nade, you got to think it is all over for Honored Souls.
They're in the pit. They're all going for the res, but there's more utility being dumped the other way as Honored Souls. They're down, but they ain't out. as that could be another very good nade up the hill, but I don't think it's going to get a knock. 20 seconds until the zone going to start closing in again. We got 8 teams left alive and kicking as Loops taking some damage from Influence Rage now. Nice spray coming in from Chow from that God compound, and that's a beautiful line of sight he has up to Minas, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really nice tap fire coming over. I am a little bit concerned about Influence Rage, though, because they did concede a knock to Black Dragons, and now Black Dragons have used that as an opportunity to start closing their way in. Sure, Black Dragons are taking a fight of their own, but Influence Rage need to focus on getting healed up and getting over to that little hillside. It's all well and good playing this compound for now, but you have to make that cross, and you have to do it a little bit proactively to be able to hold out the other teams. That's the thing with PUBG. You can't just be thinking what's happening right now. You have to be thinking 2-3 steps ahead, and it feels like that's something these teams are lacking. Black Dragons, though, are trying to think about it, but they end up getting pinched. That's going to be them out in 8th position. 7 teams now remain as VIVO Keys start to smoke out. They are desperate for heals by the looks of things. It might just end up being a bit of a heal strat. Never mind, Federal goes down to the nade and Influence Rage. It's just become a rescue mission.
Oh my God, Loops on 12 eliminations now. They are on an absolute tear. Chow tosses a great nade. That burst does so much damage on the Loops. But that will be Loops' day done with 13 eliminations. But that nade chunks, that was cooked to perfection.
Medium rare, if I do say so myself. It was really nicely done because obviously the nade landed, took down one player, but immediately followed up by the hip fire, managed to connect into a second. You just kind of wish that there was a player there for the trays to get a bit more support in, but really impressive, even if it didn't lead to any points in the end.
Yeah, the fact that he did so much damage to 3 or 4 players, it really helped his team in the long run. More damage being sprayed on to Adrian. Adrian hits the deck and trying to finish this one out will be Little Boy. And I think Adrian's just going to crawl back into the smoke, but his day is done too. Unless Magellan can get there. Is he going to get there? Shots come out. Shots fired. And they will land. Play area continues to close on. And the Bandita Bowl looking like a valley of death. Mafioso from Alpha 7. They're still alive on this one too. And he's got himself his eyes trained on Theus here from INTZ, but INTZ is taking damage from elsewhere. Mafioso is playing the snake role, and that's kind of what you have to do when you're a solo player now, isn't it?
It feels like it, and look, a lot of the time you can criticize players who try and play solo, say, oh, you're playing a bit too passive, but Alpha 7 right now, 7 eliminations, they're in the top 4. They are feeling... They're on Cloud9 right now. They are feeling good about themselves, and they just kind of need to let other teams deal with each other. That's what Influence Rage are doing. They're taking out HS really effectively with the frag grenades. Now ATON 7 get involved as well, as they just start to fall apart. Honored Souls are in some serious trouble. ATON 7 also starting to move up over the top, by the way. They're going for a bit of a split position right here, not fully focusing their attention onto either team. Now there's only 3 squads left, and it looks like ATON 7 have spotted out the final player from Alpha 7 with that nade, but haven't converted it into anything. Maybe thinking there's more left than there actually are, playing passive accordingly.
Yeah, well, that's it. They know there's someone there, and they're wary of all angles. And sometimes passive play is the right thing to do. But here comes the send from Lucky down into the valley. Mafioso dodges the car. Spray comes in. Mafioso falls as ATON 7 pick up the kill. And you know, it's not too friendly on us casters when you got ATON 7 and Alpha 7 in the same lobby, especially when they fight with each other. But the big fight now, the fight for first place, the 2 members of Influence Rage taking on ATON Esports. But look at that zone control, chunks.
It's all in favor of ATON right now. They have so much space, and yeah, Kazagi is just going to really deny the point right there. Almost actually manages to claim one of his own, but in the end, ends up giving it away. It's ATON Esports that get themselves a chicken dinner. A7, AT7. 2 teams people have maybe been getting a bit mixed up, but it definitely looks like now ATON 7 are cementing their place in the standings and starting to gain some serious points. Really impressive, though. I love what they did here. They didn't have to do this. They didn't have to send a player over to join their teammate and start throwing down a load of nades on towards Hidden Souls. It was really impressive to see Influence Rage and ATON 7 work together to take down. Sorry, it's Honored Souls, not Hidden Souls. So hitting them into a corner, throwing down a bunch of nades, really impressive. ATON 7, what a lot of teams would have done there was try to consolidate, and I think that they played it really smart. They used the info they had based on the smokes at the other side, knowing that there's at most 3 players down there. They sent down Lucky, they got the read on the solo. It was a bit risky, don't get me wrong. They nearly had to take that final fight as a 3 versus 3, but in the end, when it came down to it, they had a good read. They completely controlled the zone. Lucky was up top using the high ground, and, well, Influence Rage, as soon as Choco pushed up, didn't really stand a chance.
Definitely not. I couldn't have put that better myself, Chunks. Brilliant performance by ATON Esports as they pick up those ones. But let's have a little look at those standings from the last game, Chunks, and 24 points for them. But look at second place Influence, only 2 points behind with 22.
I can't help but notice as well, though, Alpha 7, 17 points. Let's not forget, our second place team was Inco. They weren't playing this game. So any points that Alpha 7 got is them just growing a lead. Now, don't get me wrong, Alpha 7 aren't going to be playing in either the next match or the one after, which means there is going to be a little bit of chance for Inco to maybe catch up. But at least for now, Alpha 7 considerably growing that gap. And they're going to be able to rest easy when their time comes to take a break.
Yeah, they are. And I think Loops as well are going to be out of the next game too. They've had a phenomenal day so far, picking up a lot of points. They got 15 for themselves. But once again, a couple of teams down the bottom of the table, Chunks, that we've seen there time and time again. And even that top 9, there was so many kills farmed by the top 4 teams that there was only 1 or 2 points up for grabs for those teams in 9th to 11th. And it makes it very tough for those to get their day going whatsoever whenever Alpha, Loops, Influence, and ATON are playing the way they've been playing today.
I'm a little upset with Rise, honestly. They're a team that have shown real promise. I'm pretty sure the last play day, they managed to get something like 2 chicken dinners. So seeing a 0-point game for them is really not ideal, but we say it all the time. Look, there's groups coming in and out. There's going to be hot drops. There's going to be teams that suffer. Teams like Lazarus, for instance. But let's look at the teams that really shone that game and take a look over at ATON 7. They did not disappoint. 9 eliminations, 6 revives, so much ammo shot, so far traveled, and that red zone at the end really demonstrated by the frag grenades.
Yeah, 11 nades used by them total. Not to mention the 7 smokes as well, because they know how valuable smokes are. It's probably the best bit of defensive utility in your backpack, because not only can you use the smoke in a defensive manner where you kind of make your way into the zone, but if you're in a 2v1 gunfight, how impressive can it be when you see a team just use the smoke to just say, right, that side, don't have to worry about it anymore. Let's make this 2v1, a 1v1 in our favor, win it out, and then live to fight another day. But that's the kind of start to the day ATON needed. The first 2 maps, they picked up a couple of points, but they didn't necessarily set the world on fire. That one they did. But look, we've got an MVP, and it's deja vu all over again.
Come on, someone else needs to step up now. Godozin, you're going to be sitting out one of these matches, right? At least we'll get someone new then. That's the positive. Look, when Loops take a break and they aren't playing, we're going to get a new player in. So I think that'll be a bit of a relief when we do finally get a new MVP. So nice to see, though, consistently putting in work. Lots of shots fired, lots of eliminations. Really impressive. Just a heads up as well, I have just received word that coming into the next game, Knights will not be playing due to some technical issues that they're facing on their end. So apologies about that. Just to inform you now, we'll remind everyone before the next game starts, though.
Yeah, maybe those technical issues are why we haven't seen them play to the standard that we normally expect from them. But getting back to Cardozo, maybe he needs a couple more photos. You know, he's been up there quite a bit. We've seen this one
some different
a lot.
poses. I like it.
Yeah, I like the watch though. We've got those real vibes, those old school vibes with the watch that he is wearing. And he's kind of looked at that watch a few times tonight, Chunks, and went, you know what? It's time to kill. But as we jump into some of the top kill stats, having a look at that one again, and Loops, they've dominated these all night long. Influencers as well. No surprise to see them popping up again. Little boy with 4 assists, though. You know, they rocked the top of the assist section as well. I'm seeing a lot of the same faces time and time again in these screens.
Yeah, I think an important thing to notice with the assist section is if you have kind of 2 players on one team, both with a lot of assists, then it shows that there is definitely a lot of communication when it comes to identifying players and working together to take them down. So I think that actually shines really well for Influence Rage right there, to have 2 players each on 4 assists, which probably means that they maybe had a player sponging them all up as well. So that's good to see. And Lil Boy actually in every single stat we have right there, so really impressive. The opposite maybe being said for Swaggin right there, 477 healing and 341, I believe that's shots.
A big amount.
Or is that his ADR?
I'm not actually sure. We need to get some confirmation on those ones, but Alpha 7 pretty much dominating that middle section anyway, with both Carrillo, Revo, and Swaggin, 3 of the 4 team members in that top 4. Then when we have a look at the distance traveled, Alpha 7, if you're going to top one section of the stats, these are the 3 ones you don't necessarily want to top, are they, Junks?
No, it really means that they've had a tricky zone. We'll see how that affects the overall standings, though, because obviously Alpha 7 were significantly in charge coming into this, and they still kind of are. Influence Rage 20 points behind them still. Alpha 7 have a good chunk of breathing room that they don't really need to worry about probably when that game comes around where they don't have to play anymore.
Yeah, Influence Red, so this is their opportunity to climb that table, because we know that Alpha and Loops will not be taking part. Inco and VIVO Key, that's an opportunity for all those teams to keep on climbing that leaderboard. But Chunks, one thing I want to draw attention to, look at the eliminations board on the left column, and then look at it on the right. Team QUESO, 81 eliminations, but they're not even in the top 10. They really need to get better at surviving into the late game, because we see they're an aggressive team. They take on lots of early gunfights. They win most of them looking at the stats, but it usually leads to them limping for the rest of the game. You know, if they take on a team of 4, they'll pick up the 4 points, but they'll lose 1. Then in the next fight, they'll pick up 2 or 3 points and lose another 1. And then from that point on, you're just kind of hobbling across the line.
Yeah, I feel like that's a pretty fair point to make when it comes to QUESO. They're a scrappy team. Their fights never, unfortunately, seem to be like clean. They don't really break them off quickly. A lot of the best teams out there, or some of the best teams, are very good at engaging in a fight, and then when it kind of turns, when they maybe lose a player that they can't res, they'll try and back off. Where it feels like QUESO potentially at times overcommit to fights, get a little bit too scrappy, and do end up losing a couple players early on. And I think that might just be their downfall. But also, they have just been getting caught in some really tricky positions at some point, some awkward ones, where there are just players in places that you don't expect able to find one or two eliminations. So it's going to be interesting for Team QUESO, see if they can step it up. Also, with Knights not playing in the next match, I want to see who will maybe fill that void, who will maybe go in, sponge up their loot spots. But that will come up in just a couple minutes. Before that, we do have a short break, so we will see you all for game number 4. I hope everyone got time to get themselves a snack, a drink, because it's about to get spicy. We're going back to Sanhok for the final time this evening before heading over to Miramar for our final matchup of the night. Fast-paced action from start to finish last time, Gibson. I think it's fair to say we should expect the same again.
Oh, definitely. It's a small map. It's close quarters fighting. You've got all of those camps, Camp Bravo, Charlie. It is great place to see some action, not to mention boot camp in the middle of the map. But we said it before the last time we were here. These compounds are very unforgiving whenever you get stuck in those gunfights. So if you are a team that likes to play the compounds, Chunks, you need to maximize it in this game.
Absolutely. The downside, it feels like, to compounds on this game, though, is they don't really provide the same... Sorry, this map, I should say, is they don't really provide the same level of cover as maybe compounds do over on Erangel and Miramar. They're definitely a lot more open. So I think if you're going for a compound, you really want it to be, I don't know, like an actual built-up area that you can defend and make sure nobody gets into. Maybe one of those small towns, maybe one of those little crossroads areas, just so you have lines of sight out and you're not being maybe hampered or opened up to from multiple areas. You just need a good, solid couple of buildings where one player from each one player in each building kind of split up like that, watching angles. So it's going to be an interesting one here on Sanhok, because it actually looks like we might have a bit of a Pie9 hot drop.
Oh, I like the look of that straight off the bat. Lots of action. Zone taking up most of the map, which is to be expected. But we are going to have some straight off the bat and Paradise Resort, as it looks like Ren from INTZ. I like his little teddy bear umbrella, or a teddy bear parachute. It was pretty cool. But back onto your point as well about the compounds, Chunks. You look at Sanhok and compare it to the other maps. Every, villages and towns on Erangel, Miramar, and elsewhere, usually they're on middle ground or high ground. In Sanhok, it's almost as if every little compound or village... Oh, this is a bit of BM, isn't it?
Oh, I love it.
A bit of BM. Oh, no.
He's interrogating him. You can see him ask him, where are your teammates? Tell me. But Fran's not giving it up. There it goes. Punching Fran out. First elimination point of the game. Nicely done for Rise.
Yeah, full-on Batman. Where is he? That's what he's doing right there. But yeah, back to the kind of point, Chugs. A lot of the compounds in this map have high ground around them, so you're always fighting uphill when you're inside them.
Yeah, it's a really tough one to work with, isn't it? Especially if you were to look at the compound like Younes is in right now. There's so many high ground positions that teams can get to. So it's really hard to actually see up over those ridges, take shots, and more importantly, how the hell do you get out of that compound? Because it's hard to even move between buildings when someone has high ground over you. They just have so much info. And I will say, though, I don't think the high ground is going to do Martins much help right now.
High ground is one thing, but it kind of helps when you've got a gun to fight back with.
Got a teammate. He's got a team. Yeah. He's got two teammates. They're pushing in. Look at this from Black Dragons. They want this. They want this elimination real bad.
Oh, Martins was just playing. Maybe he was the bait. He was bait. Tried to distract.
Unintentional
players.
Bait. I like it.
Yeah. But oh no, the shot's coming on in. ATON taking no damage whatsoever from that spray. But here comes the aggressive push. They want to end this here now. Backed into a corner.
There it is.
Good night. He goes to sleep on the bed as Black Dragons pick up a point for themselves. Rise have 2 on the board. And ATON have lost 3 members of their team already. 15 players alive, or 15 teams alive, Chunks. And that is, of course, because like you said, Pittsburgh Knights are not joining us in this one. And their loss is the gain for the rest of the lobby, as they'll be able to pick up all of those points. It's one less team to be wary about and more opportunity to get up and running. A team that you said have disappointed you tonight is Rise, and they're going to take a knock here too, and they've just not got going.
They've got 2 eliminations out of it. I'll give them that, but this really isn't ideal. They need to try and get on the salvage right here. And look, I said it, compound fights on Sanhok are scrappy. There's no real way to cleanly take them. Sure, there's the sense of smoke, nade, everything you can, and just swarm a building. Yeah, that kind of works, but you know, you're risking so many players potentially getting caught in crossfires to really move in. I personally am a big advocate of just playing the hillsides on Sanhok personally, unless you have like a crazy powerful position like INTZ do right now, for instance. If they wanted to go and play on the roof of this building, sure, go and do that. But unless you have a crazy strong position or really good lines of sight, I think for most people, it's best just go up on the hillside. Obviously, you know, we're playing competitive. It's a little bit different, though. Players can actually hit their shots. It's not like we're playing a public match and you can dodge and weave, you know. You do have to have that hard cover, but I think compounds on Sanhok are very hit or miss is probably the best way to put it.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And you spoke about these players hitting their shots. I don't think I've seen one player out in the open survive tonight as well, with the way these players have been spraying people down. You know, we had a little talk before we got up and running. You were telling me to expect a lot of plays from the UMP and then the ARs being used for more long-range engagements. But boy, can I not say, the 4x M4 sprays that we are seeing from range tonight, these players are making it look like they're firing a rope, because there's literally no recoil being shown whatsoever.
No, it's really well done for teams to have such control. So it's impressive to see just how strong they can actually become. I mean, looking over at this circle though, it doesn't really give a pointer of how things are going to go. For anyone who is maybe new to PUBG Mobile, the zones are very wacky, I think it's fair to say. If you played another BR game, you think you have an idea of how the zones go, then you play a PUBG Mobile and it just throws it all out the window. You get very surprised by some of these. So really no way for teams to know for sure where they should end up going. I will say though, VIVO keyed picking up the AWM. I'm not sure how they want to run with that, whether they're just trying to get it away from the crate, get it out of play, maybe steal the ammo, but an interesting strategy. But yeah, as I was saying, with this circle, it's on every single island. There is nowhere that it is certain to end right now. So I like what teams like VIVO Key are doing, where they're set up in a compound, but they can very easily rotate to any of the islands and get in relatively smoothly to then play for that late game position.
Yeah, it's a great spot. It's, you know, they're a little swim away from both islands, or even a little cross on that bridge as well if they decide to do so. And really, it's just them and one other team playing that northern section of the map, or northwest section of the map. I can't necessarily see who the other team just is. But looking at around the rest of the zone, it's like a little bowl of Skittles, isn't it? With all those colors just slapped around the middle. Oh my god, what a shot that was by Ren.
Wow. That's all I can say. It felt like that was a one tap or something straight to the head. He was down, but no. Really impressive C talents, though. That's unfortunate. Kind of, and I hate to say it, kind of got ratted there. There's no other way to put it. Fraggers was just laying prone, not making a sound. At the end of the day, it's a competitive game. You're playing to survive. He definitely did that. Netos, though, definitely getting a bit more aggressive, opening up with a second spray, converting one of those knocks into a flush. Lil Boy is coming for support, but I think it's probably too late for Federal right now as the nade goes up. The player's already bled. So Neto's just kind of waiting for any audio cues.
Yeah, Little Boy on full retreat mode right now. This was a big opportunity for Influence Rage to climb the table, but INTZ had other ideas as Neto's going to go ahead and just loot up, reap the rewards of him winning that earlier battle, as Mythic will also get a knock on to his tallies. He picks up a kill as well. And you got to say, you look at where INTZ are playing now too. They're another team that find themselves in not the worst position in the world. Some of those teams, the way up by Cow and then very, very north of the map chunks. If this shifts south, it's worst case scenario for them.
Yeah, it's going to be brutal. I mean, taking a look at the map, obviously we don't have it up on screen, but if anyone has the map feed open, you'll see that around boot camp is just so clustered. Obviously, it's center of the zone. Everyone's grabbing it, thinking it'll be easier to rotate, but I think that because everyone kind of has the same mentality and the same way of approaching it, there are going to be more teams that try and work their way through. And say the zone shifts over to Camp Alpha, which is probably the scenario I'm looking forward to the most if that does happen. Every single team is going to have to cross over this river that is wide open, that already has 2-3 squads posted up holding the cross. Nobody is going to be able to make it through, and it's going to lead to probably 5 teams by phase 4.
Chunks, for one of the nicest people I've ever met, boy, oh boy, do you like to be cruel to these teams with these shifts you want. You want a Camp Alpha shift where only one team is on the entire island. Look, guys at home, I can assure you that off-cast Chunks is a lovely, lovely guy, but it seems like he likes a bit of cruelty here in the zones.
I appreciate you lying for me, man. That's all I can say. BULUC CHABTAN, though, they're being honest and direct. Equally so, direct with their shots. Told you I'm slipping more puns in tonight. Raze, nicely done with the nade, but taken down low because of it. Only 5 bandages to work with. He's going to need to try and get a nade out there, but if he exposes himself to Becca, it'll only be 1 bullet to finish off the job. Is able to confirm up another elimination, so that's at least 2 points salvage for this game as Inco start to move their way back. Becca looking all the way up the hill, and it's Fernan, actually his teammate from BULUC CHABTAN, getting ready to make a move, as now we do just wait, and I'm just going to say it, that zone is closing in. It shifted over to the west a little bit.
I'm worried. Oh, yes. So, Camp Alpha is inside that zone right now, and that is not what these players will want to see. But a lot of the mainland, well, you can't really say mainland on this map, can you? But a lot of those the bigger islands still
the
having
Eastern
a lot
Island, yeah?
Yeah. They've still got a little bit of ground to play with. Influence Rage, though, having lost a couple of members earlier, they don't have much to play with at all, as they're taking a little bit of damage with a player separated. And, you know, Cow here has got himself a nice little dip, to say the least. He's prone, and it'll take a nice line of sight to spot him out.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If you're happy chilling there, then you chill out there. BULUC CHABTAN, though, I don't think Fernan should be quite so happy, because he has maybe a little bit of an idea of these Inco players. As they start to move through, the nade comes out. It seemed like that was actually from Inco. Another pre-nade going to come through. The pre-fire attempted with the UMP, but unfortunately going to be running out of ammo just before Fernan tries to throw a nade over, but the crossfire works out perfectly. V2 is just watching there, able to take down Fernan. It's down to a 2 versus 2. As now Inco decide to back off a little, play some slightly different angles. They still need to be very cautious. Becca with the nade in hand. His teammate is there using that TPP to get the info on the other team, gets that nade out, but just a little short. As now Inco looking like they're starting to worry. This might be good for Alpha 7.
Yeah, but this is that mutually assured destruction we spoke about earlier, as Inco trying to close the gap at the top, but finding BULUC Chan a very difficult team to wipe out. They have 2 men down. It's a 2v2, like you said. Pre-fires coming round the corner, but Becker is just going to fall back. V2 2K as well, just meting up as they fight it out by the river. Another pre-fire coming on in, as Becker has to try get a knock in this engagement. He's in that situation with his teammate in the background where he is the point man. Molly coming in, it's defensive one. He's going to wrap around the corner again, but these the players, they're playing it, both teams playing the defensive side of this really well, Chunks.
This is so tough for them. I mean, look, every team is starting to make a migration over in this direction. Most of them are starting to get a read that it is going over to the west. So it means that these 2 teams that should have, in reality, been holding everyone from crossing and sponging a load of points are now just wasting their time burning through each other. BULUC CHABTAN only have 2 players left up. Only 1 player left up. And Inco with only 2. It's so rough for them. Inco do try to push, but Becca's set on fire. He's been sprayed down as well. Reese tries to go for the flush. It works out, but he's only got 2 first aids. Needs to back off, try to go for the heal. As V2, he's just not pushing this. You would have thought he's done the damage, push, get involved, but no, he's just waiting. And this might be the downfall of Inco, just based off of this 1 first aid kit that Reese has managed to pop.
And you cheddar believe that the first team to go out of this one is Team QUESO, as Reyes from BULUC CHABTAN's going to peek around again. Yeah, we're going to keep those going all night, Chunks. I am loving this action, but I think V2, maybe, you know, I'm never one to question a player because there's a reason why they're the pros and we are the casters. But I just feel that maybe the opportunity to push was there earlier and he was a little too passive.
It feels like it. It feels like it. I mean, that first aid, that was the game changer, wasn't it? If V2 had maybe pushed, then no way that Reese gets that first aid off. One bullet probably would have finished the job. Granted, I didn't see how much health V2 actually had, so it could have been the same story where he was low in health, but that is perfectly done. As soon as he heard that player getting shot at, he peeked out, made some noise, got himself the elimination, got his team an extra point, and then got them higher up in the placement, because that was the final player. Polar Ace are doing what they can to try and get involved, and well, it looks like they maybe realized it was a solo because they are crashing down this hill.
Yeah, and Chunks, you know what? Have you seen that zone shift?
I have seen it, and it is all water. It is right on the river.
Oh no! If you're an IGL right now, what do you even do? As Z-Fan from Nova sprays down one of those members. I think that was Honored Souls that he spotted off in the distance. And Nova Koi, the rest of the team pushing up. Oh no, QZ as well. These are nasty bridge camps that Nova are setting up right now. This is cruelty to the rest of this lobby.
Look, in a game like this, when you get a circle like this, what else are you going to do? Vivo Key are already posted up on that big mountain right on the western side of the zone. And from that mountain, I don't think you realize how much you can see, or a lot of people might not realize how much you can actually see. You can see pretty much that whole island and shoot down on whatever you want. Granted, there's a couple trees, but if Nova wanted to cross that bridge and come in, they would likely expose themselves, which is why you see them setting up a bit of a bridge camp, getting a little bit aggressive here. They're going for the eliminations because they realize that placement points in a circle like this are going to be very hard to come by. So they're chasing it all down. They've got vehicles going for more shots, though. Kindness, not killing with kindness, instead killing with some bullets close to the head, but unfortunately not enough to convert into anything. Nova could give chase here, but it does look like instead they just want to cross that bridge, get into zone. They still don't have too many meds, especially QZ, but this is the danger of a bridge camp, isn't it, Gibson?
Yeah, exactly, because if you're on a bridge like this, yes, you get lots of lines of sight around, but there are a lot of lines of sight on you as well, as one of the teams who flatter to deceive. Delta Stars are holding one side, but they have to be careful. Look at this Fragger. He's gone full on hide mode. Renz is the... Oh, Renz. He could catch influencers by surprise. He pops out at the right time. Gets the knock on the little boy. He will fall. And now Kowski is just going to swim his way back across. And you got to say, ENTZ played this game really well so far. 3 kills on the board for Renz and looking to make that 4. But there's that defensive smoke. Gives you the opportunity to push back up the hill. What is that ESTORM that I see off in the distance too? So Renz has to be careful that by winning that fight and getting into cover, he doesn't find themselves at the prey and at the mercy of ESTORM. But Chunks, we have another fight going on here at the bridge.
Look, you mentioned how that player had to actually turn around in the water. We should probably point out Rise are actually on the other coast. There's no way that that player can really get to safety no matter what side he goes onto right now. But Inco, look, they're struggling to find any safety of their own as well. As V2, the final player left standing, sure, 4 elimination points, really impressive, but now getting peppered behind, caught in a bit of a rough position. And I don't think he really has any info on where Vivo Key are going to be. He's just laying prone, hoping for the best. There's 9 first aids there, so we may very well see a heal strat come out later, but honestly, for a team like Inco, you maybe think that they could get a little bit more aggressive and try and get Vito in, even if it just means sending it down the hill, potentially opening himself up to one of those teams and taking the risk, but never mind, because he's hitting sprays like that. Why would you want to just rat a player in when he can frag out like this? What a spray, doing serious damage onto Polar Ace.
Yeah, well, look, for anyone watching at home who dreams of being a caster, Chunks just gave you the exact definition of what being a caster is. You open out that big book of rules and regulations and instructions, and rule number 1 is whatever you say, the exact opposite is going to happen a second later. It happens to us all the time.
It's the caster's curse, isn't it? Players are just so unpredictable, man. But that's what separates them, isn't it? You don't want a predictable player that's going to really do everything by the book. You want someone who's going to be a little bit out the box and surprise the enemies, you know? I hear a lot of pro players talk all the time about playing public matches, getting eliminated by really bad players just because they were unpredictable and, you know, they maybe caught them off guard. And I think that's definitely something that's true. Look, though, at this zone real quick, that has gone exactly where I wanted it to. I'm very happy.
Well, I kind of wanted to go on that island where Rise are now.
Oh, that'd be good. That'd be good.
But this is a good second. I'll take this as a sneaky little second place. We got Azel and Fraggers from Delta Stars on one side of the bridge. ESTORM holding the other, with players pushing on in from either side. Well, you got to say Nova in a great position to this one out. And we spoke about V2's position and how how he was going to try to play for placement. That zone shift has actually brought him back into play as a fragger. Never mind just a player riding the blue trying to stay alive.
He's got to be careful, though, because obviously VIVO Key are right up ahead of him, so he just needs to try and sneak in, avoid making noise. It might end up being the case where he has to tank a little bit of extra blue damage just to be able to get below those cliffs that VIVO Key are actually on, just to break the line of sight. But I'm not sure how much info he actually has on that squad right now. Obviously, they took a couple shots, but outside of that, V2 was just really taking his time in terms of rotating through. And it may honestly end up being the case that he goes down to play zone. I don't know what his med situation's like.
Yeah, but if he does, he's picked up another Oh my god, walls. That was just a trap sprung to perfection for ESTORM. You pick up another point, and ESTORM, 4 men up. I'm looking at that little feed down the right-hand side. Only 3 of our teams with a full complement of players at this moment in time. And with the way things are going, with the position they have, they're going to pick up another couple of points, with Walls playing a beautiful off angle. Because look at the rest of his team chunks. They have a nice little split.
It's risky, though, isn't it? Walls obviously being the point man now. They have to have teammates watching kind of the bottom side of that bridge in case exactly what's happening right now happens. Delta Stars send a player down below and he potentially causes some problems. That player has been able to sneak up. He has started swimming and now he's right in front of Walls. He's right below him, but down to low HP. It looks like the player has been able to heal up, so Elite going to spin around the side, opens up with the barrel and takes him down. That's why you don't play super split. ESG really got punished by that one. Nova, though, a lot more consolidated. They're getting down smokes right away. They might actually be able to get this res, and this is what we were worried about. Kiyoshi from Polar Ace comes up behind. It isn't maybe the player we expected, but a solo just sneaking up, tearing apart VIVO Key. Yet to get an elimination point, by the way.
It's kind of crazy when you think about it, isn't it? That we're this late into the game and a team like VIVO Key haven't got any elimination points. But Kiyoshi from Polar Ace showing that he has ice in his veins. Diego's cooking that nade though. Kiyoshi prone on the ground. All this is going on has allowed V2 to get into the zone. Kiyoshi fires and gets one. But Diego is able to trade that one out instantly, and he's going to have time to get the res, because I'm looking around and the rest of Polar Ace seem to be a little bit off in the distance with just one member standing in. Look at those top 3 teams, 6 kills apiece, but Nova now the only team with 4 men up.
Let's forget about the teams right now. Let's look at the zone, because until a second ago, not a single team was actually in it. Nova have now just crashed with vehicles to be able to take the only bit of hard cover inside zone. And the interesting thing about this is that they're actually exposed from the rear, which means as long as they watch their back and make sure no one's out in the blue sneaking up on them, they're not really going to be exposed until they try and peek to take some shots. By the way, Inco and PA, Polar Ace, that is, it slipped my mind for a second, have both been eliminated now, leaving only 6 teams left up, as VIVO Key have been able to get a heal, but with the zone closing in, it might just be a send on the bike to try and get down this next hill.
Yeah, could be the last team into the zone, could be the one that actually wins this one out. because it is nothing but open ground.
Oh, no.
ESTORM, they're going to drop now. Diego's got a Groza primed and ready to fire as he picks up another couple of points for himself. 4 teams now left, and Adrian fighting on multiple fronts now too. He's going to maybe get another knock. No, he dances in the blue, does the dance of death, and gets a man down for his troubles. But Diego up on high, he gets another kill for VIVO keyed, as finally they went from no kills to Diego having 4 of his own. And we have our top 4 teams. Play Zone wipes out Adrian. Nova down below. Nova are sending Koi off to do that heal strat as he makes his way into the blue. But that got very busy very quickly, Chunks.
I said it, didn't I? I said that if this phase ends up going over to that Western Island, then it's going to be very messy very early. I maybe overemphasized it by saying there were only going to be 5 teams less by phase 4, but ignore that for a second. And let's just appreciate the game we've had so far. Diego still, as a solo, popping off, trying to make some noise. He popped his only first aid, and now he has to jump down a cliff. So unless he wants to try and heal strat this one, I think his days are all but over. He might actually be able to find a peak, open up, but I mean, he's coming up against Nova. This is a team that, when they have just one player left, it feels like they default to the heal strategy, so they should be well versed in this. He's down to his last first aid. The bandages aren't going to do much help. Kindness is just waiting. It all goes the way and over in this case, but credit to VIVO keyed to be able to grab such a strong position early, make it to second place, albeit maybe lacking the elimination points a little that I would have hoped for from them. But congratulations for Supernova. That is for Nova, I should say. That was a super performance. That works. And sending it over into that shack was just the perfect play at the perfect time.
Yeah, well, they were the stars of the show, playing on that Supernova pun that you're going to give us. But I'm impressed by a lot of teams in that one in particular. I think, though, the decision-making from Nova, multiple times they full set to the best positions on the map. They took that shack that you expected them to take, and that got them the win in the end as we look through those highlights. And, you know, you talk about the med strat. I think Diego as well, denying the point to the zone. People like it, some people don't. To me, when you've got a team like Nova, who are a very powerful side, you don't want to give them that extra elimination point either, do you? So we're getting ready to see those match standards, Chunks, but I think we all have a very good idea what they're going to look like after this one.
Oh yeah, really impressive performances across the board. Very Elim heavy for a lot of these teams, but that's what you want to see, isn't it? You don't want to see everyone just sneaking in until the end. I will say though, I kind of have to disagree with Diego right there. I think his best play, honestly, you know you're dead there. 1 point, is that going to make too much of a difference for a team like Nova? I don't think so. I think that the play is take the bike down, try and get yourself a knock or two, and hope for the best. Maybe even just crash a rock or crash yourself a building, just something. Just try. That's all I can say, you know. There's no point throwing that one away. As much as I get trying to deny points, 1 point in a lobby like this, he could have potentially netted himself, 3 plus the difference of 6 points if he'd gone down there and managed to take down those players. So, you know, gaining 6 points over a 1 point difference increase, I would definitely try and go for the 6.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to disagree with you, because I think I was kind of saying what I think that's basically what he was doing. Either way, it's down to the decision he made, and yeah, he has the ability to pick up those kills, especially with the Groza being his weapon of choice. So Chunks, it's like you said, yeah, maybe it was the wrong thing to do, but looking once again at that kill feed, there's not a lot of points to be had for those teams in the second half of the table. It seems like we've got a lot of teams in the top half just farming out some kills or eliminations. Nova with 9, Delta with 7, INTZ picking up 6 along with Rise. Look at ISURUS though, 6 placement points, not a kill to be had, but they snuck their way into that top 8 in that game.
Yeah, it feels like teams are starting to learn now that you have to be a little bit more aggressive, and that's something that Nova demonstrated really well. Even though they weren't in what I'd say was an aggressive position, their playstyle, the way they were aggressing onto teams was definitely so. They were taking a lot of shots, they were making a lot of noise, and they weren't afraid to make a move when the time came. They didn't necessarily just post up and try and defend one position. They were being a little bit proactive in clearing out, stopping people from crossing, for instance. So that's a really impressive one. But you know what? It's getting so close up at the top end of things. Let's take a look over at the stats in a sec, not just for Nova, but for all of those MVPs, all those amazing players, because there are a lot of them, and I really hope that V2 is up there for that survival that he managed to pull off.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he gets up there. And, you know, I'm going to have to pinch myself, as that's a different MVP. That's the first time. Yeah. Might have something to do with the fact Loops weren't playing, though. Maybe just a little bit. But look, Renan's with a great performance. 5 kills for him, 1,300 you know, HP or health points regained as well on the meds. So really good job by INTZ. They flashed at a couple of occasions. Didn't get the win, but Renan's definitely helped them pick up a lot of points in that one.
Yeah, I will say it feels like INTZ, they have players that just kind of pop their heads up and we don't really see it. Like INTZ, I mean, look at what Renan's able to do here. He is consistently putting out numbers in terms of both damage and in terms of the number of eliminations he was able to get. But that's just something that kind of happens with INTZ. And it feels like a lot of the time you don't notice it until after the game when you look at the leaderboard and you're just like, oh yeah, they actually had a really good match that game, because that's because INTZ aren't a team that really, it feels like, go for super team heavy fights. They're definitely a team that prefer going for kind of pop shots fights, trying to catch a team out in the open, catching individual players, and not being afraid to back off. So I think that maybe contributes to it. Whereas a lot of teams, once they get into a fight, there's kind of no getting out for them.
Yeah, I could, like, I keep saying it again, Chunks. We're very similar to our mindsets. I agree with you once again that's why INTZ are kind of finding themselves in those situations. Looking around the rest of those stats, obviously we're not going to have as much distance traveled because we're going to be on a different map type. Sanhok leads to a different situation. Speaking of different situations, let's look at what way the standings are sitting after that one, Chunks. And VIVO KNGHT climbing that table tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a 16-point difference between first and second right now, which may sound like a lot, but it has been much higher in the past. And then only 2 points down to third. So look, even if VIVO KNGHT go down early, there's still a chance that Influence Rage or even potentially Inco Gaming can close the gap. I like the fact Alpha 7 have taken a break, but now that we have another team going out, I'm interested to see which those teams are. It is going to make things tricky, especially for squads who maybe had a really good game. A team like VIVO KNGHT, for instance, if they aren't playing now, it's going to be a struggle. But we'll check those groups in a second.
Yeah, we'll know pretty soon. But you know, the points tally in PUBG Mobile, 15 for the win and then a point per elimination. So VIVO KNGHT, if they can get a couple of kills and a win here, and Alpha don't play to their normal standards, they will finish the day top of the leaderboard going into day number 6. But Chunks, it is all heating up tonight. We've had 4 maps down already. We have 1 map left, and that's going to be that of death. Those mounds, those hills, those dunes, those dips. I am very excited for it.
Yeah, Miramar, final game of the evening. That's going to be coming up in just a few moments. But before we do, we are going to take a short break. So grab a snack, grab a drink. 1 more match left. Don't go anywhere. One more map remains tonight. It's going to be Miramar. We played how many maps of Miramar now? 2 of them already. We have 1 more left to go. It's day number 5 of Season 4 of the America's Elite League. For anyone just joining us, my name is Shunks. I'm joined by the one and only Gibson. And let's take a look at the groups because it's our final match, which means yet another team is going to be going out. And if it is the lobby, I think it is. The producer hits the button. It's Group E. There it is. It's going to be an interesting one because all of our best teams, really, are kind of still in the lobby. Sure, INTZ are out. Polar Ace are out. ATON 7 have shown signs of life, but, like, Polar Ace Knights have kind of been lacking. So I think that if there was a set of groups I wanted to see as, say, maybe the most competitive, I'd say this is the one.
I think so, and it's nothing against the teams in Group B. They've all been absolutely fantastic as well. I just think when you look at the leaderboard and which teams have maximized the points, it has been the teams in Group A to Group D. But there's 4 or 5 teams that could really realistically finish top of the leaderboard today if they have a good game, Chunks. Who do you think will be the biggest winners and losers out of the top 4 in this last map of the day?
I mean, Alpha 7 have everything to lose, don't they? All it takes is one bad play and they're out of it, and Inco are going to be able to take over. But it's our final map of the evening. It's Miramar. Let's jump into the plane and see how things are looking, because look, the plane paths have been a bit too friendly tonight, Gibson. I'll be honest, I want to see a hard south plane path and then an Oasis ending. Just make it happen.
Could you imagine the scenes?
I'm dreaming.
An island finish, you know, Prison Island, or you know, even worse,
if we get that Eastern Island, I will be very excited.
Retire. You know,
I'm too tired. I'm too tired, dude. I'm not sure whether I could give it my all. It's nearly 3 in the morning. I don't think I can cope with an island circle at this time.
Oh, if we get an island circle, we have to retire. You know, it's the rules of a caster. You get an island.
I don't know about that one.
Nah,
Speak for yourself.
Look,
you do you.
I'm going to be honest. A world without Chunks is not one that I want to live in as a caster. And I know that everyone watching at home thinks the same. Do you know why? Because it's just good fun. It's good fun. Great to be here with you tonight as well, as we do have... It's an interesting flight path. That Southern Island possibility is there. We could also have that circle that kicks over towards the west, where you get all that unplayable mountain too. But one thing is for sure, we're not going to get that Eastern Island finish.
I can dream. I can dream.
I hope so, but we've had hot drops has been kind of the story of the night today so far, especially in and around some of those high loot areas. As we get into this last one of the day, are you expecting to see... is that a Lambo that we have dropping from... I like it.
I told you, PUBG Mobile just has the best skins out there. I struggle to think of any game that comes close to PUBG Mobile with the skins. Look, someone's skating down on a hoverboard. How could you compete with this? How could everyone not love this game?
Man, and you can play it on your phone. If you're watching this at home...
Teddy bear parachute as well. Come on, man.
Yeah. So, guys, if you are watching this from home and you want to get involved in the action and play some PUBG Mobile, Chunks, it's free. And if you have a smartphone...
That sounds like a good deal.
Who doesn't have a smartphone?
I know some people, all right? Anyway, let's hop on board with XSET, because them and QUESO are scrapping it out again, and it looks to be a similar result this time. A player down early. It's QUESO that are going to be losing one, as Killswitch tries to play a little bit more aggressively. He wants to group up with the rest of XSET. But do they know where this player is? Seeming like they can flush one out. Already knocked a second. Time to go for the third. Spamming the SK, maybe causing a bit of a distraction. Polog flushes one out. Bye-bye. Living up to his name. Waving it. As Tuna is the last one. Killswitch just clears through. I think XSET have a pretty good read here as LAZARUS. That is unfortunate. Just getting torn apart right now. LAZARUS, though, was able to trade out one as the nade is close. Beautifully cooked on Scario. Joey going to be able to make that one happen. Wow, Alpha 7 losing too early. We said we wanted to see him go out early to really make it more competitive. I don't think we expected this.
Oh, a lot of players in this lobby loving it, and Cunha has just been turned into Swiss cheese with the amount of holes that was put into him as Alpha 7 tried to fight back. I think there's another... That member still down is going to be Carrillo after that nade, but Revo has to do some damage. A lot of players taking a lot of shots, and Alpha 7, they're down and they're out, and that door has been blown wide open for those teams in the hunt. We could very likely now have a different team on the top of the leaderboard after day number 5.
It certainly looks like a possibility, doesn't it? Influence Rage have already got themselves 1 elimination so far this game, so they're clearly definitely going to try and get aggressive. Now, look, if they're paying attention to the kill feed right now, then they will know that Alpha 7 are out of the game. They will have seen that from the eliminations that came up in the feed. They will have an idea that Alpha 7 are out of it. They probably know, and this is just guessing, I know there are some teams out there that don't even like to look at the leaderboard until the end of a tournament, so who knows? But Influence Rage will probably have an idea now, more than likely, that, okay, we have to get this number of points this game, and we really get to see them dictate the pace, because they're not in a terrible position either. They should be able to get into the zone relatively okay. Sure, it will take a while. Sure, they can't get dead center, but if they're a team that likes to play edge, sweep through, get some eliminations, and play more like that, then this zone could end up working perfectly, and we could see a new first-place team.
Oh, I'm excited. I really am to see how this one is going to pop up. While this goes on, let's have a look at some of those stats. Inco, right now, 93 kills in the tournament, nearly 20,000 damage. That is impressive as anything. Picado is their preferred drop spot. And I spoke about the whole idea of staging, Chunks. Picado is probably the best staging zone in the whole of Miramar, because anyway the zone pops, you're going to be pretty close to it. With the way this zone popped, they're pretty much slap bang in the middle. Things going good for them. They are a team that could take that top spot away if they get maybe double-digit kills in that win.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about staging and setting up for the late game, and I think that's really important. When you take a look at, okay, who are the best teams and where do they drop, typically there's a high correlation between Picado, Pachinki, and who's the best out there. Granted, there's exceptions to the rules. Some teams really like one loot spot for one reason or another. Might just be good loot, might have some good vehicle spawns, but typically Picado, Pachinki, center of the map, it gives you the most options, it opens the most doors as to how you want to approach the game, how you want to rotate your way in. I think the only time that being that central team maybe doesn't work to your advantage is if you are a team that prefers to play edge and go for elimination points rather than trying to get set up early and really defend a position. If you really like being the aggressor and not the defender, then that's the way to go about it.
Yes, you almost think sometimes, Chunk, worst case scenario for an aggressive team is being gifted center zone with phase 1. They're like,
oh, I've seen it before.
They're like, what do we do? You know,
yeah. Look, I mean, you see it a lot of the time. If we were looking at Erangel, for example, take a look over at Millie Island. If you look at how many good teams land on Millie base, there is a huge list, right? If you look at a correlation between Millie base games and a Millie team winning that game, it's actually very low. And that's because, obviously, if you're a Millie base team, you're used to having to fight into zones. You're probably playing edge. Your point strategy is more focused on eliminations than it is on placement. So you really do struggle making it into those late game situations if you are an edge team. And I think that Millie base drop compared to Millie base win statistic is, I wish someone would run those numbers so I could have them, but I think you'd be very surprised with just how poorly teams perform sometimes when the zone comes straight to them.
Yeah, you've just put our stats man on a hell of a spot saying, you know, that's a stat we'd be interested in getting. But another point that you brought up earlier, Chunks, and I think it's something maybe we should delve into a bit more too, is the idea of watching that kill feed to work out what teams have fallen. IGLs in PUBG, the amount of information they have to process in a game, that's a great shot, and by the way, on the QZ, but, you know, they're watching the zone. They're trying to work out where people are based on their drop spots. They're trying to keep an eye of how many players have how many players up on every team, as well as trying to work out where teams are fighting based on audio cues and the kill feed. They literally have to keep their minds on about 15 to 20 things at a time.
Yeah, I think the thing that people maybe struggle with when it comes to PUBG is there are two approaches to it. There is the approach of, okay, let's try and memorize everything. Remember everyone who dies in the game. Remember where everyone drops. Remember how teams are going to rotate. That's an element of it. But I think that as long as you play enough scrims with the teams that you're coming up against, as long as you get a good read that, oh, if we rotate this way, we're going to bump into Nova, for instance, and you can actively make that decision and make your game plan based around that info and not really thinking, not really trying to avoid stuff, but more so thinking pragmatically, can we take this fight? Can we win it? At least 80% of the time. If the answer is yes, you go for it. So I think it's just going about your game plan and going purely off reactions and the amount of time that players have actually spent on this game. I will say, though, Loops, I don't like the reaction that they're coming up with. They do finally have a teammate close, but guess what? Toy goes down, and now it's back down to another 1v1. Granted, Mender's coming around the side, but there's still a tree there for cover and a little bit of a barrier, so Chief can't really do anything. Loops should be pushing this together, but instead they're split, and that might just be their downfall, because it's two 1v1s rather than a 2v1.
Yeah, and Chief blinded too, which may give the opportunity to push, but no. QUESO is going to play this a little bit passive, which will allow Loops to wrap on up. There's the shots coming on now as the res is going to try to be stuck. Coming off the res, Chief gets the knock, and QZ will get wiped out, as Toyko should get resed as well. Loops not necessarily being punished for that mistake, but Koi coming in with the stone raids chunks. He could be about to ruin Loops' day, and they've probably been the big winners today so far.
It definitely feels like it. Loops coming through, able to clean up again onto Nova. They've only got one elimination point so far, but make that a clean 4. They have only lost one player, but you know what? Loops have been putting in work. And Cardo's in is dead, which means that, hey, maybe someone else on his team gets the chance to shine now.
Yeah, well, you spoke about them losing a player. If you were going to pick a player to lose, he is not the one. 119 kills for Loops. They are the most... 119 eliminations. I'll get that right yet, Chunks. We're working on it. But they're the most deadly team in this lobby. First place on kills, second place on damage over the course of the whole tournament. It's starting to show, and they're picking up the placement points now to go with it as well. I think the sky is the limit for this team, and they're getting into form over the right space of time. These last couple of days, if you're in the hunt and you're really picking up all those points, you gotta be thinking big times ahead for Loops.
Absolutely. I like what VIVO are doing, though. I love this position. They have so much info out into the blue. I just wonder whether it's really going to be efficient going forward. And seemingly, yes, it is. It's still inside the zone. Monte de Huevo, dead center of the circle. I do worry in case that's where it ends, because I feel like that is going to be a very messy fight. And I feel like most players will probably die before they even get into the city.
Well, urban warfare is just a nightmare for these teams. You know, not only are you fighting on the horizontal plane, you're fighting on the vertical plane as well. As players jump on different stories. You've got the couple of 5-stack buildings in there, a couple of 4-story buildings, rooftops, everything. There's just so much to keep your eye on. But yeah, Rise, they've got themselves a nice little position in the zone. Look at XSET kill switch now, looking to switch on his ability as he sees Inco, another team in the hunt, crashing on into this warehouse compound. Oh my god, Nunez, what is that spray as he takes out Luis? That is impressive. I am impressed.
With the explosion, bear in mind, Gibson, that was not just a spray there. That blew something up. I'm not sure whether it was a vehicle or a gas can or something, but that's how he was able to take out the player. Kill Switch is going to try and do the same, but it's going to be a tricky one. He's down to low HP, and Inco would just push it. XSET, what is going on here? They are so split. Adrian got himself a blow-up elimination as the team go down out in 13th. But yeah, XSET yet again just taking an early game fight, super split, and guess what? They lose a player. They're down to a duo again. This is becoming a pattern for them, and I'm really worried that they're not going to change it.
Yeah, it's maybe they're trying to force the issue. Maybe they're backing themselves a little bit too much in these fights. But whatever it is, it's just not working. As Fraggers is going to get on the move. Shot comes in from Mythic from the Bolty, but oh, that would have been a nice little highlight to end the day for Mythic, but unable to land the shots this time. The zone, like you said, is centered in on Monte Nuevo. A lot of teams making their way into that zone as we speak. But do you know what? We're not going to get that trailer park finish either. And that's a finish I like to see from time to time.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. You know what? There's still going to be an exciting zone. There's so much terrain that teams are able to work with. We have the potential of even 2 city endings with a circle like this, potentially even a power grid ending. There is so much that can go down here. I am just excited to see how it unfolds, and, well, Mythic, he's going to be excited because he's just found himself a pretty free elimination. A player just healing on the back of a building, tries to go for a second, actually lands the body right there. Needs to call that out to his teammate ASAP so that they can get the push on it, but it doesn't look like that's going to be happening. The hip fire to finish off the job, and Fraggers is down.
Oh my god, that was nearly a beautiful duo. The body shot was lovely too. And Delta Stars now fighting a losing battle, but they managed to trade and knock back the other way. Saz, he's got the buggy. He's going to get on the move now. He's got his knock. Guerrilla Warfare, get on out of there. Live to fight another day as Delta Stars are on the move. Elsewhere, we're looking at what is going on. We've got... Oh no.
Look at this, though. Mufasa running up without any health. He hasn't even attempted to heal. I'm not sure whether he realized it. He was just running to try and maybe get an exit frag over towards Delta Stars as they moved out of here, but it doesn't look like he was able to in the end. Jesse, though, nicely done to be able to take down Fernan before being spotted out. He's just going to try and move back to safety. Hope his teammate can get there, but what was that from a Leon kid? The one shot with the bolt to be able to take him out in what felt like a very short gap of space.
Oh my god, the Bolty's coming in strong on the last map of the night. ISURUS under pressure now to get that res as they've got to be careful pushing on in. We've got multiple teams. Delta Stars, they just can't catch a break, can they? Mythic are just hounding them down. They're like a pack of wolves chasing a wounded animal to get the win in this one.
They want this so badly. Rise are going to be looting up. No real surprise there. It does look like they are maybe going to be going a bit med heavy, but I wouldn't expect a heal strat. No, never mind. They are not. Martino, though, does end up going down as QUESO going to try and move up over the top. Has an idea that there is going to be a BULUC CHABTAN over the top. Going to try and get a bit of info, but obviously that TPP being used by Lil Kid, denying the info. Now, as he is finally spotted out, he's able to land a couple shots. QUESO tries to return the fire. Nicely done with the M4, down to 7 bullets, but also down to no HP. Valvida going to try and move in, but no. Valvida instead turns away, goes to the long-range fight. I really don't think that was the one. I think that maybe if he pushes it, he'd have a lot more success. Now, it's a 1 versus 3 at this kind of range. It's not very favorable for him.
It's not. You're not giving yourself any Oh no, Polog's going to peek up at the right time and gets that knock onto Inco. And Inco are going to have a member eliminated. They're down to 3 as XSET, even though they've only got 2 players left, Junks, they have a couple eliminations to the team. 5 points will go down very nicely on this one. And Polog is going to smoke that out, get himself maybe a couple more med kits, couple more little treats for himself in that loot crate. But you got to say, XSET a couple of times tonight have sprung that exact same trap.
Yeah, I'm going to say it. Look, XSET are a team that coming into the first few days disappointed, and I feel I've been very harsh on them. And while I still think it's fair that I was harsh on them, I think they are definitely starting to prove what they're made of now. The problem is when they do stuff like this, and they're super split. J7 is all the way up here, taking a 1 versus 3 fight against Inco, who are potentially going to be the top team in this lobby if they have a strong performance this game. He needs to shut it down quickly. Tries to go for the M4 spray, but at the end of the day, you're in a 1v3. It's going to be hard to win those aim battles. Does get cracked in the body, but able to return some fire off his own. Switches over to the UMP, pops up. A couple bullets do land through, but not get him returned. Now they finally do. J7 taken down low, as his teammate is still nowhere to be found.
Yeah, XSET's doing a good job of holding them back, but he's never going to come out the winner of that gunfight with 3 against 1 situation. And that will be another team eliminated. And yeah, I think that's XSET down to 1 now too. If his teammate was there, they could win that. You know, that's very winnable. The position's great. But when you're all by yourself on a 1v3 against a team like Inco, things don't look good. Zone, by the way, while all that was going on, I think it has popped again, Chunks. And is it as harsh as it could have been?
We're going west. There's a lot of unplayable inside of this zone, and there's also the city of Montenuevo. So our options are either city ending, completely open flat desert ending, or very, very bumpy, ridgy, hidey ending. And I think that's probably what we're going to be getting, because look at the position some of these teams are going for right now. LAZARUS are just up top, raining down hell onto teams that are trying to push onto them. You can see that Delta Stars managed to trade it out and take down AJAT, but KNGHT is just focused in onto this squad down to the south, trying to shut them down. If you can maybe see Escanar, it could be a different story, but it looks like he's inside the building and not really going to be a point at this moment.
Yeah, shots coming in, and Fears is going to fall down as well as LAZARUS lose another member of their team. KNGHT up on high, trying to spot out the players from Delta Stars, not able to land any of those shots, but with KNGHT up in this position, and he's got the buggy there too, he can play there for as long as he really wants to, because...
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
You know what? You said he could maybe play there as long as possible, but look at who's coming up on this hillside. It's VIVO Key, the team that won our previous game and was able to shoot up the standings. He's making noise. VIVO Key have to know this, and I don't think that he's aware of this squad pushing up.
Oh, he's making a lot of noise too, but Joey needs to give him some support. It's not looking good for them right now. I was overconfident. I thought that they were in a great spot. But one of those teams that is VIVO Key getting closer and closer. Ooh. The zone shifts again, and it's not going to be that city ending, but it is going to be a lot of dips and dives for these players to hide. We've still got a lot of teams alive as we move deeper and deeper into this one.
I'm going to say it now. If you want to win this game, your best position is get to those little shacks west of Polog, or try and take something off of Black Dragons, because those two positions are arguably the strongest. If you go up to the northeast or the east, you're going to be very exposed when the time comes to cross over into the later games. Whereas if you're down at the bottom of the hill, maybe down on the southwest, you can work with the ridges to make your way up. So it's a little bit different. I will say, though, this is going to be a very tricky zone for these northern teams that now have to try and make it in. Black Dragons, though, they've not got it easy, because there is a team directly below them, and they are ready to sweep. It's Influence Rage, by the way, currently second place, but if they have a good performance, that will change to first.
Oh, it definitely will, but he's got that level 3 helmet as well. He's cooking that nade, getting ready to toss it up the hill. Federal takes some shots as well, as Black Dragons are going to get mobile, get agile, and fall back into that compound. A lot of teams have lost a couple of players over the course of the last few minutes, as Nunez gets a knock on to one of the members of LAZARUS. There's just one man standing now, and that position of power has become a position of weakness for them. And Black Dragons under a lot of pressure now too, as Loops pick up another elimination, and they have 5 more points for them. I think that if Loops win this game with the point tally they have, they could be finishing today in second place. They've had a great day.
They absolutely have. They have put in work tonight, and I would be very happy if they won this one. They would absolutely deserve it, but first they need to try and stay standing. And as Chief goes down before being immediately flushed out, it isn't a good sign. Nicholas, the player I told everyone to watch out for from Black Dragons, he is the diamond in the rough on this team, it feels like. He is putting in work. He's done a lot of damage, but Toiko has done the same. It's all going to come down to who can land this final bullet first, and it looks like this time around it is going to be Toiko. So typical cast occurs. Talents is out on his own. Black Dragons do look to be falling out in 10th, but who knows, another team might go down first.
Yeah, you never know. Look, XSET as well, just one man up. It's been that way for them for quite a while, as Cielo sprays down Escanar on the way past, but none of those shots are going to find themselves landing on the target. That's a better spray, though. Chokes, he dead. He gone.
That's a team effort right there. I like it. coordinating the sprays for when he flipped.
And now BioTalent out in the blue as well. Black Dragons not looking good for them as Influence Rage. They want Talent's name. They want him out of this lobby. They want that point because they also could find themselves in top spot. By the end of the night, 9 teams left, only 3 with 4 players standing. One of the members of BULUC, CHABTAN, are down now to Polog. Swings around the corner, gets the knock, 1 HP and a dream as he's just going to vault into that window and try get that med kit off Chunks. We are getting to that squeaky bum time.
It's certainly happening, isn't it? Don't forget, by the way, the zone has shifted down south again, so it will be ended up on that hillside. VIVO Keys start to make their way into the hillside, but they are going to be struggling, running out of ammo in the M4. Switching over to the UMP, takes down the second. Medals still left standing. The trade comes through, though, and in the end, Adrian's going to be able to shut things down, but he needs to get the revives quickly. So does his teammate, because there's 2 players out of the fight there, and a whole lot further to make it into zone. Don't forget, XSET still with a solo, and a Leon Kid with a bolt. Good attempt, but not converting it into a knock.
Yeah, Bolty coming into the fray in this last game. I am absolutely loving it. And look at the 7 kills on the board for VIVO Key now. 8 teams left, and not a lot of players standing. That zone is just horrible for these players up on the hill. Honored Souls, we haven't seen the best of them tonight, but okay, we're going to see an effort here with 4 men up to maybe try get them those 15 points for that chicken dinner. But they are playing a nice spot. They're on the ridge. They've got a lot of hard cover, and to be fair, it's a very enviable position that they have right now, especially with this 2-2 split.
Yeah, and looking at how things are going right now, BULUC CHABTAN are going to try and finish off this fight. It's only a Leon Kid left up in kind of a 1v2 situation here. Players watching both levels. It's going to be hard to deal with. It'll take a really lucky nade to try and make something happen. But no, what a play coming out there from Nunez. Jumping through the window, setting himself on fire, running down the stairs and saying, no, 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 you're the one who dies here. That was so well done. Such a brave play.
Be terrifying. If you're watching that happen, that's terrifying. Because sometimes PUBG is a bit of a horror game, I'm not going to lie. It's got a couple of jump scares in it from time to time. Teams fighting in the blue now. BioTalent's always got no meds. This is going to be it for Black Dragons as they fall in 7th place. Inco, though, in the blue as well. 2 kills. Becker, 2 med kits. I don't think they're going to finish the day on top spot either.
It's a rough one for them, isn't it? Unfortunately, not going to be able to make that jump. Let's not forget, though, Influence Rage are still in. I'm pretty sure they'd have to eliminate near enough everybody in the lobby to actually get enough points to jump all the way up to first, which is unfortunate. I will say, though, Polog has been kind of the saving grace for XSET today. They have had a very, very rough day. Don't get me wrong. They've had a couple of eliminations in the few of the matches, and they were impressive. But in terms of overall performance, the number of points gained, there hasn't quite been enough from them yet for a squad of XSET's caliber. So I hope that maybe they can net a couple more points out of this game, and it'll put them in a good position going forward to future play days, and hopefully give them a bit of a confidence boost and get them back into it.
Yeah, confidence plays a massive oh, here's one of those points that you spoke about. Can he get the second on the Nunez as well? Spray comes in from the Becky. But the zone will wipe. Was it stolen? Did that?
Yeah,
no.
It was Shello in the end that managed to get it. Or was it? No, it was Honored Souls that managed to get it.
Oh, and they find themselves now 2nd place. 4 men still standing. Another one of those teams in the hunt, though. Influence Rage. Federal tossing that utility up onto the ridge, trying to get the knock on to God, but nothing landing just yet. But that's a lot of utility being dumped, and that is everything he has from a Molly standpoint. But I'm looking, there's a member knocked now as God is going to fall. We've got 4 teams left, 12 alive as we got ourselves a Mountie finish now. And Becker, he's still down there, he's still hiding. He is loving these teams on the top fighting it out because it means more placement points for him.
We should probably mention as well, 3 of the 4 teams still standing are in like the top 5 here. So we got VIVO Key, we've got who else? I've forgotten already. But we have quite a few good teams. We got VIVO Key, we got Influence Rage, and we also have a solo from Inco. So it shows that there is a certain level in this, and whatever happens, the points are going to make a pretty major difference to the final leaderboard at the end of the day. Law is going to be able to take down 1 as, well, everyone just seemingly starts to fall. VIVO Key doing what they can to try and keep control of the hillside, but as Influence Rage come up the back, it's being made a whole lot tricky, and I don't think Adrian actually knows about Federal, except for maybe now as he does open up some shots. Finds a little bit of damage, gets the knock, and well, Influence Rage definitely starting off on top.
Yeah, 3 teams left, and Becker's using that noise to make his move up. KNGHT, the last man standing now for Influence Rage, using that utility, tossing it up. Sorry, there's 2 members of Influence Rage left on their feet. I just read the map wrong, but this is all suiting Becker.
Oh, Becker.
Oh, is he going to sneak up behind KNGHT? He might.
He's got an aid. Oh, this could be big right now. Becker is just waiting. In comes the nade. Didn't look like he was able to get one. He's definitely applying pressure right now. VIVO Key, Influence Rage, both in a tough position. Lil Boy takes down Cello as Becco finally comes through, steals way 1 with the nade. Law tries to go for it himself, but ends up getting sprayed down. That leaves VIVO Key up on top. The nade's going to come through from Becker. Can it land through the window? It certainly looks like it, but in the end, it's not enough. VIVO Key get themselves, I believe, what's a second chicken dinner, this time with a whole lot more eliminations. And Gibson, they might have just managed to get up near the top of the standings. I'm not sure exactly how it looked before, but that was a promising end.
Well, that's 21-point lead that Alpha 7 had going into today. That ain't 21 points anymore. Or sorry, going into that map, it's going to be a lot tighter at the top. With a couple of play days left to go, I think there's still 6 or 7 teams in with a massive shout of going on and winning this America's Elite League tournament. I am loving every second of tonight so far. But you gotta say, VIVO Key, whenever they're on it, Chunks, they are on it. The maps that they have won tonight, it's been because they've been incredibly decisive, incredibly aggressive, and didn't pull any punches when they got into gunfights.
I'll be honest with you, Gibson. I'm a little bit upset because for the first few days that I was casting the America's Elite League, VIVO Key didn't really show me any of this. So they were a team that I wasn't really, like, super jazzed about, if it's fair to say. They seemed like a team that, they were doing all right, but they were just kind of a middle-of-the-pack team. But seeing them when they have a good day is a scary, scary sight. And I can't wait to see the actual stats from this game and look over at the standings after this to see what they were able to net, because it was a decent number of eliminations. That's right, 14 eliminations. That's 29 points. If Imperium was here, that'd be bright red on his stat spreadsheet.
Oh my god, that is a performance and a half to end tonight, and that will definitely make it very tight at the top. Influence Rage as well with 16, Inco with 15, and Rise Esports and Honored Souls with 12 points each. But, you know, cast your eyes down to the bottom. Alpha 7 Esports, they've played 5 games tonight, Chunks. In 3 of them, they didn't net a single point. Sorry, they played 4 maps tonight, but in 3 of them, they didn't net a single point. That one win coming in pretty big for them.
Yeah, really big, and it'll definitely help them out up the leaderboard. We should point out as well, when we do get to see that final standing, VIVO Key, that's 2 chicken dinners in one night. They are going to be feeling very good about themselves. I think it will definitely put things into serious contention. I do worry, though, we're starting to see Team QUESO and teams like that down on the bottom half on that leaderboard, unfortunately, more often than not. So I hope that they switch things up, because they've got to be getting eclipsed by a few teams now, right?
Yeah, it's a tough spot to be in for them. You'd nearly say it's been a very grating performance for them tonight, Chunks.
God damn it.
Let's jump on over to VIVO Key stats. Anyway, 14 kills, 1700 damage, 809, health regenerated with 9 knocks. Very good performance all around. And once again, Chunks, the teams that have won the maps tonight are the teams that have used their utility to perfection. 17 nades and 6 smokes again. Utility is king.
Well, it's about using utility effectively and knowing when to use it, because a lot of teams think, oh, if I just throw out, if I get a knock and there's a team roughly nearby, I should just throw out every single nade that I have and try and take them out. But unfortunately, that's not the case. Polog, there it is. Look, I said during the game, this guy is going to be kind of the saving grace for XSET tonight with the way he performed in that final game, being able to make it in. Decent number of eliminations as well. Very brave plays. So really good to finally see an XSET player up here, honestly. It feels like it's something that we've been lacking. And I hope it's a sign that they're starting to change and starting to get back to where they should be, because they are such a good team. They're such a strong roster. They should be up there at the top. They should not be in the bottom half of the pack.
Yeah, and they're a huge org. You know, regardless of what esport they're in, XSET are a big deal. So it's nice to see a player finally put points together. Looking around the other players, Adrian with 7 kills. He got half of his team's kill tally in that last map. 7 kills, it was brilliant. And then look, Diego with 4 as well. So brilliant performance by them. And then you got to look at the assists as well. You spoke about it before. If there's a team with a lot of players on the kill board and a lot of team in assists, you know that they're communicating cleanly. When VIVO KNGHT communicate cleanly, there's very few teams better than them.
Yeah, really true. Really, really true. And they were doing that so well tonight. Being able to bounce off of each other is not something that comes easy, and it shows that these guys have a lot of experience together. They know what they're doing. They know each other's roles, and it's just a case of fitting that sometimes, because it often feels like teams will have roles for players, right? And then just because maybe one player is in the wrong position, maybe that entry fragger that they like going in and surprising or sneaking up on a team is in the wrong position when a team takes a fight, then guess what? That player can't really fulfill their role. You've probably got a player knocked. That's where things start to fall apart. I think that might be the case with VIVO KNGHT sometimes, but I think because teams kind of fell into their trap and things kind of unfolded perfectly, it worked out really well for them. Let's take a look over at the overall standings, though, and there it is. We have a new first place, finally, Gibson.
And not only are they in first place, they blistered past Alpha 7. They have a 13-point lead. So what? They gained about... Or they really closed that gap last time around. And not only that, Influence Rage just 2 points off Alpha 7 now as well, as that race for the top is really starting to heat up. And as you look down through the leaderboard as well, with a couple of play days left, really you'd probably say anybody in that top 8 with a couple of good performances tomorrow can really put themselves into that challenge for the win as well.
Yeah. You know what? You mentioned tomorrow. Unfortunately... not going to be back tomorrow, though, Gibson.
No.
We're going to be taking a few days off for the weekend, but the America's Elite League will be back on Monday. Same time, same place. It's going to be an exciting one. Can VIVO KNGHT keep this lead, or can Alpha 7 get back onto form? It's going to be a tough one. I cannot wait to find out. But right now, that is about it from us. This is the leaderboard. It's the end of day 5. There are still 3 play days left, so don't worry about that. There is still a chance for a lot of these teams to get up there. I'm looking at teams like LAZARUS, Nova, Rise, teams that have had some really good nights, but have just really struggled with consistency. All it takes is one good night, and you're back up there in the running, in the top 3, getting the majority of that prize pool. So that's what I'm hoping out for here.
Oh, man, exactly. Rise, Nova, let's see what you guys can do on Monday, when we will get the action back underway. But Chunks, what can I say? As for a first ever night here on the PUBG mobile scene, I have enjoyed every single moment of it. The games have been action-packed. The plays have been incredible. And as we have a recap on the night, look at our most dangerous men in the battlegrounds.
But look at this. I can't help but notice this. Loops have 2 players in. VIVO KNGHT have 3. Now, you've got to bear in mind as well, Cardozin was putting in work throughout the night. That's why he's got 16 eliminations. He has just been popping off. But to also see Chief up there is actually a really reassuring sign for the squad. It shows that it isn't just one player and that it is actually a team effort, even if Cardozin is maybe just a little extra on form today that is helping the team out.
Yeah, it definitely is. But we said it halfway through the last map. The big winners of the day we thought were loops until we saw VIVO KNGHT kick off. But when you have two teams where you look at those top 5 killers, they've got 25 kills for loops between 2 players, and then when you look at KNGHT, you've got, what's that, 30 kills between 3 players. 31.
Pretty good.
Actually, my maths were actually letting me down. 31 kills. That ain't bad. That ain't bad at all. But look, it's no surprise. Look who your daily MVP was.
Yeah, of course it's Cardo's in. I will say though, look, we've had a little bit of a switch up there as we get further down. VIVO KNGHT have had a really strong performance, which has helped bump 2 of their players up in the MVP scores. And Nicholas from Black Dragons, who I believe was like 4th or 5th at the start of tonight, has unfortunately slipped down. That is just unfortunately due to the nature of Black Dragons' performance. It feels like there really wasn't much out of them tonight. I want to see what I saw when it was my second game casting, when they were able to just pop off, get a decent number of eliminations. But I worry about Black Dragons because they are a strong squad. Nicholas is a very accomplished and talented player, but if they can't get the consistency down like so many other teams in the lobby, they will fall apart. But look, that's the MVPs for the night sorted. That's the end of tonight's games, which means that now it is unfortunately time to say goodbye. Gibson, thank you so much for joining me and filling in for Imperium. It was a pleasure to finally get to cast with you and have some awesome games.
Yeah, at long last, Chunks. It was so much fun. Thanks for bringing me in. Thanks for everyone at home and the production team and all the players as well. Got to give a thank you to everybody involved. It has been a hell of a night. But Chunks, as always, thank you too. You've been a gent to me since the first minute I met you. And as I said, a pleasure to finally work with you.
Yeah, it was amazing, but we have to wrap it now. That is the end of the evening. Once again, we'll be back on Monday with more America's Elite League, so be sure to stay tuned in. Imperium will be back. I'm sorry, Gibson. Sad to see you go. Anyway, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. It has been a pleasure. As always, my name is Chunks. His name is Gibson. We will see you next time.